Mentally feel like Kobe, I'm like Jokic with the rock. You physically couldn't hold me, I don't care if you pushing 40. You can never little bro me. Euro step like Ginobili, from young OG to the OG. From nosebleeds to floor seats, circle stronger than Cuban links. My gold dance, your gold plated. You verse me, now that's the reach. We ready, who ready?
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the One-on-One Sports Show here on the Black Man Unfiltered Network. I'm Mr. Bennett, joined by my partners, as always, the coach in the building tonight, my 7B brother, and my guy from Dallas, Dante, in the building tonight. Always good to have you in the show tonight, sir. How are you doing? How's the fam?
Doing good. Family's doing good, man.
I heard that. And how you doing, sir, Coach? What's going on?
I'm doing all right, man. How y'all doing, man? You know, it's midweek, man, so I'm excited, man.
All right. It's hump day, right? It's hump day.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yep. Doing well here. Doing well. Just certainly looking forward to this show tonight. Make sure when you come in tonight, make sure you hit the like button as you come in. Also consider becoming a subscriber to the Black Men Unfiltered Network. And as you see scrolling at the bottom of the screen, you see the Cash App for Black Men Unfiltered. You can certainly give a personal contribution there, or you can just drop a super chat to the Black Men Unfiltered Network, and anything that you want to give us personally, our Cash Apps are now scrolling at the bottom of the screen. But again, good to have you guys with us tonight as we certainly review. Obviously, we had, coming off the Super Bowl, this is sort of the bitter time of the year for me. So again, it's the end of the football season, and you're going to have this lull for about a month or so until you start getting into the draft and the combine and all that kind of stuff coming up and whatnot. So we're going to kind of put a bow on this season and maybe touch on a couple of different topics as well. Certainly as we get into this today, but certainly good to have you guys with us tonight, and hopefully you enjoy the show. But let's just get right into this thing. Let me share my screen, and let's get in. Obviously, the big game, certainly from last week is the Super Bowl. So again, congratulations to the Seattle Seahawks, a very convincing win, 29-13 over the Patriots. For the Super Bowl championship, and congrats to Kenny Walker, becomes the first running back to win a Super Bowl MVP in 28 years. This game kind of had an old school type of feel to it. You had great defense for the most part by both teams. I thought both teams put in some incredible efforts. I think Gonzalez for the Patriots. I mean, he saved so many catches, leaping defensive plays and whatnot. So he definitely kept the Patriots in until Seattle finally busted through. But the defense was stellar, and obviously they just went to the run because again the Patriots were so good with taking away the pass from Sam Darnold. So like I said, it definitely had a very old school feel to it, and certainly very deserving of these guys winning the game. Just some stats on the game. Bring our guy Shawnee up into the mix here. It's just some stats on the game here. The big takeaway for me is again 8 punts by the Patriots, but the big stat for me was the 6 sacks that were certainly given up by the Seahawks. So again, a very dominant. In fact, for 3 quarters. You almost thought that they were going to just, shut them out. I was actually saying if they're able to pull this off, this might be one of the greatest defensive performances in a Super Bowl. But again, I was very, congratulations, obviously, Sam Darnold. Obviously, certainly his story and comeback story of the year. I'm expecting a movie released on Disney next year. And also just a shout out to you guys. Congratulations, DeMarcus Lawrence. He toiled in Dallas for so many years. No rings, but finally got his ring. 1 season with the Seahawks and got a Super Bowl ring. And I think they said his wife is expecting like their 5th or 6th child or something like that. So it's congrats to him. What a way to bring a new child in the world. Certainly as a Super Bowl champion, and so shout out to him. Certainly for the results also. But I'll start with Dante first. Your thoughts on the game and the outcome, just to kind of give one more stat here. Again, the tale of quarterbacks, and neither one had a great game, and I think a lot of Drake May's stats were sort of in crunch time. But certainly you can start out just your thoughts on the game. What you thought was the difference in the game, and it was the outcome of yours, because you weren't on the show last week, so I don't think we got your Super Bowl prediction. But your thought that the game matched your expectations.
The game didn't meet my expectations. I thought it was going to be a little closer because both defenses are good. But I did think that I did think Seattle was going to win the game. I didn't know they were going to win so convincingly. And so I would say what came into it, which is probably the first time I would have said it all year, because Sam Darnold, while he is, improved from his former play, I felt in this particular game he did have the advantage just because he had the better defense in my opinion. And Drake May's second year, so he was going to be able to fool him. And you can even hear it in the clips from like Julian Love, those sideline clips, and he was just like, and they even said it. It's like, hey, with Matthew Stafford, that ball is gone. With him, he's getting to the back foot and then he's waiting for it to happen. And they was like, oh yeah, we're gonna tear him up. And they did. And so I figured that was gonna be an advantage because, like you said, Darnold wasn't great, but he was definitely better than the other quarterback. And Kenneth Walker, I'm happy for him because I want guys to win in the NFL, but more importantly, I want them to get their money. He is a free agent, so now he gets to go to the negotiating table with a Super Bowl MVP, and the other running back they got in a timeshare kind of situation got hurt. So he's like, hey, I was able to carry the load when another guy got hurt. I'm an impact player. I'm really happy for Kenneth Walker. I'm happy for, especially after the penalty that almost cost me the game. I'm happy for Zygi Wilf. 4-4 word from my home city, so I'm really happy for him as well. I'm happy for him and what he was able to do. He's going into free agency as a champion, so it might be somebody that he might want to come back to the Metroplex, maybe.
So you don't think that his play with especially with the championship game, you don't think that's going to hurt his prospects going forward? Because he's kind of a wild card. He's kind of hit or miss. He's a freak talent, but he makes a lot of bonehead mistakes too.
That's the one thing that they're going to take a pick at him. But the thing about free agency, why it's good, is all it takes is one. And if one team thinks they have this price point, if somebody else bumps it up, then that's how the deal gets made. And that's why they try to suppress free agency. But I'm happy for him, getting it. I'm happy for DeMarcus Lawrence. At first, when he made the comment, I was just like, hey, maybe not the best. He doesn't always have the best coof. And that's why he wasn't the best leader, because he comes with too much raw energy, coming at it, false. But so I would say over time, I was like, hey, we understand you're taking a shot at the front office. You're not taking a shot at the fans. So I was like, hey, especially once all the rivals were out, I was like, yeah, I'll root for the Seahawks to win it all. Even though I thought the Rams were a better team, but the Seahawks, they had a better defense. So kudos to them. Kudos to everybody that's a defense and running game type of guy. You had your kind of Super Bowl. I don't mind some good defense, but I wish the Patriots offense would have showed up just a little bit more.
Gotcha. Coach, and shout out to Coach, because he was the one. I think he had the boldest prediction. He said the game would be decided by the Patriots by more than 10 points. So I think everyone else, I think we all expected a closer game, but Coach knew, he got the pick right, and as well as the outcome. And it seemed like your kind of game, Coach. Run the football, play good defense. You seem like your type of game. What were your thoughts on the game?
Man, I love football because it makes me study, right? Football makes me study, and just watching Seattle's whole demeanor the whole season, and I believe the way Sam Darnold just showed that he was lights out, Tom Brady style, consistently. I could see that outcome because just listen to the interviews, the team was going to play for each other. The game came down to the turnovers. The punts didn't matter because both teams, there was 13 punts, I think it was, in a game. That's unheard of in a Super Bowl where teams punt 13 times combined. It came down to the running game and the turnovers because the time of possession really didn't matter. It was close, those turnovers. But I'll say this about football, and anybody that think they want to play football, if you sort of just understand your position and play it at a high level, because we saw things happen in the Super Bowl that they never really paid attention to. When the guy for New England, he saved 2 touchdowns by diving and batting the ball down. They don't really highlight those things. But again, man, running backs are here to stay in football. If you want to see some passing, go play flag football. But running backs are just in it. And I'll say this, and I said, I think they need to reset the market and give him his money. Give him his little 18 million, 19, 20 million.
Per season?
Yeah, per season. They give receivers 35. They give receivers 35, and they have a one good season, then they fade. So that might be overreaching, but he deserves to get his money, like everybody. But I like Seattle's whole team, uh, just the way they spoke out the interviews leading up to it, and throughout the season. They didn't have that, oh, we happy to be here. And shout out to New England, though. A young team, you know what I'm saying? I think the quarterback learned a lot. And again, like you said, Dante, with the timing, he'll learn that with time. And college is a little more, half a second slow. But I think New England going to come back and be strong in that AFC. They're going to be hard to deal with because they're going to look at this game and realize where they lost it. And it came down to the turnovers.
Gotcha. Shawnee, your thoughts on the game?
Well, I think my prediction last week was like 27-17, something like that. I didn't really think it was going to be. I mean, I tried to give the Patriots respect, but I didn't think it was going to be. I thought Seattle was going to pull away, mainly because the Patriots' offense has been, skeeted for the most part, majority of the playoffs. I mean, they had a good showing versus the Texans. But that was because the Texans just kept giving them the ball, But all they played like hella defense the entire from the Chargers all the way up to the Seahawks, and they was all making them work. The Seahawks, and the thing about as I was watching the game, it just further pissed me off more as a Texans fan because I'm like. The Seahawks did what that was the Texans game plan. You had the defense. When people say defense win championships, you had the defense. Even though Seattle just did a shootout because the defense didn't show up versus the Rams, but that's the Rams. If you look at the season, they had a shootout virtually almost every game they played this year. But they had the defense to just don't screw it up. And Darnold, it looked like he was a little bit shaky at the beginning, not too much, but he corrected himself pretty good. I know he had an out route that was very close. His receiver caught it. I think it was to his tight end, but it was like right there. The DB was right there, so it almost like was a bang play. But it looked as the game went on, you saw Darnold get into a better rhythm. And shout out to Darnold because the entire postseason he threw no interceptions.
Yeah.
So he didn't have no turnovers when it comes from him. And but the difference between Seattle and Houston, Seattle has a running game, and Houston been struggling with that all year. And that's when I thought the Pats defense, because if anything during the playoffs they had a good rushing defense, but Seattle was able to keep them honest with the passing game, which really took a hit. Because remember. Smith and Jigma went out because they thought he had a concussion. So he missed a huge chunk of the game.
Right.
And for a while, the Patriots defense, even though, the Patriots defense was keeping them in the game because they were just holding Seattle to field goals. And Seattle didn't score a touchdown to the beginning of the fourth quarter.
Right.
And so both defense was showing up. But once you saw Seattle and the way they was getting in New England, it's like, Seattle, like, okay, we kick a field goal. They did not want to make a mistake. If there was going to be a field goal kicking game, it was going to be a field goal kicking game. Our defense shutting y'all out right now. Now it did get kind of sticky when New England scored that touchdown and then forced Seattle to punt the next possession, but Seattle defense just returned back to form, and even though they kind of scored again. But I had a question to ask you guys because you remember that first, because by this time, when New England scored a touchdown, it was like mid fourth quarter.
Yeah.
And you remember so by this time it was 19-0, and so if they would have just get the field goal, they would have been field goal, and it would have been 14-19. You almost would have needed three touchdowns to get back in the game.
Right.
Where else, if you would have went after they scored that first touchdown, do you believe they should have went for two there? So it would have been 8 points, and then all they needed was a field goal Because I heard people on the radio saying, like, why are you going just for a field goal? You already down 19. You got to roll all the dice, man. You got time is not your friend. So you need to go.
Yeah, it was time to go for
conversion.
2. It was time to go for 2 in this scenario.
Both touchdowns.
It's literally the last game of the season. This is all you got. Like,
right.
The analytics or whatever. I mean, I know we're saying go for it. That's the one time where you listen to that. But in the case of a flaw of Vrabel, him in analytics, he don't want to listen to that. I feel like you should always take it in consideration because it's just more information. It's more detailed information. And I think you should always look at it.
Yeah, I would say. I mean, certainly, again, points was going to be at a premium in this game. It was still until that touchdown, which again came off the turnover. It was. I mean, both defenses were, I think, stacking up pretty good. So again, there's no, you don't know if you're going to, if you go for 2 and miss it, and I think you're still not out of the game. So I think he still played it safe, thinking that his defense could still hold him and get the ball back and try again. It's just that Seattle's defense was just that much better. And so, I think he was more concerned about just kind of playing it safe and hopefully that his defense can get a turnover. But I just didn't think that to go for 2 there, as stifling as that defense was all night, and that's demoralizing in and of itself. Because didn't that happen early in the playoffs where a team, I think they missed 2-point conversions or whatever, and then the other team that cost them the game. I think it might have been the Buffalo-Denver game. I think they tried to go for 2 more than 1. What's that?
I think it was that game.
Yeah. So again, it's feast or famine. If you don't get it, it just takes so much oxygen out the room, and you having trouble getting oxygen to begin with. So I think he was just trying to play it safe and not go for that. So I can't necessarily blame him for that. I just think that I could see why, because it's almost like 20/20 hindsight when you're looking at it now. And but remember before, because May hit Hollins for both like a 20+ yard gain and for that touchdown. Before he hit Mac Hollins for that 20+ yarder, May had under 70 yards passing for that entire game up to that point. They couldn't get no offense going. Yeah.
I mean, it was just getting dominated.
Yeah.
And Darnold wasn't making big plays himself neither, but he was just like, he just knew, I'm just not going to screw this up.
Yeah,
if we got to kick a field goal,
enough.
we're going to kick a field goal. Because right now, my defense is literally suffocating y'all. Like you say, Mr. Ben, they had no oxygen. They couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
Donald took what they gave him. He didn't try to. He just took what the defense gave him, and he can read defenses. That's the difference.
Yeah.
And that just went back to my point. Like, as I was watching that game, I was like, because you always hear people talking about defense win championships, offense win games, well, all that, and you saw it that way, that game, and I was just like, man, this is. Well,
again, I certainly think the defense kept again Seattle and the Patriots in the game, because I thought that that cornerback Gonzalez, I thought he saved at least the touchdown, if not 2.
He was outstanding.
And the pressure that had the one pass to Njigba that was just over his head. Otherwise, he had a clear lane to certainly to the end zone because of the pressure of the pass rush. So so defense definitely. Again, if you're an old school defensive fan, this was your kind of game, and I thought they did. So I think that I think both defenses, again, the turnovers was clearly the difference in the game, and you can even see it. They even flashed to the. They flashed to the New England sideline when the first turnover happened. You saw all the guys just drop their heads, like all of them. It's like, man, we know how tight this game is. That's the last thing that we needed. That we needed at this point. But shout out to our guy. Hey, look, we all thought it was going to be a closer game. Also, no shit on Trey. You made your pick, and hey, it didn't work out. But hey. Certainly, but we've all been there. We've all been there for sure.
Well, I see he mentioned that. Trey mentioned that Darnold was trash. I wouldn't say he was trash. I mean, he wasn't looking like he was versus LA, but he just, he had a run game that was, semi-consistent because Walker almost had 100 yards in the first half.
Yeah, so but then they shut him down the second half. I thought they adjusted.
Yeah, sometimes if you're going against a good defense, you just don't make a mistake. You don't have to go out there and light it up every game. Just don't make a mistake, especially if you see your defense just absolutely suffocating the guys. What I think Gonzalez did a good job of holding Smith and Jigma, but remember, Smith and Jigma missed a huge chunk of the game with that almost concussion. So I can't really, I don't really know how, because you've seen this happen. Sometimes teams, they hold him real good in the first half, and then he comes out in the second half and do his thing. But it's hard to say that because, they put him in that blue tent and he missed some time.
Yeah. And Trey point. Yeah. Trey was like, look, as long as you keep him under 50 yards, well, again, check that box off. But obviously it didn't have, it didn't have that kind of difference in the game. So, again, Seattle, I thought, like I said, I hadn't seen a defensive performance like that in a while. And one other thing
real quick, go ahead. I wanted to address somebody in the comments said Denver would have stood a better chance. Not without a quarterback. Without a quarterback, this would have been a worse game. I don't really think that's what we. Now I already thought it was a rough game to watch. If Denver would have been there, it would have been like that game where Denver got blew out by Seattle when they won their first ring. That would have been ugly. So we didn't need to see that already. We already knew it was going against a great defense. That's just hurt. But I'm with Trey. I'm with you on that one. Yes, Darnold is a game manager, and it proved he may not have been the Trent Dilfer type of game manager. Extreme, but he was a game.
Dante, stop it, man. How's Darnold a game manager when he was balling the whole season? What are we talking about?
He was not balling the whole season. Didn't pull up the stats. He was not ball. He balled in the NFC Championship game, but he was not balling the whole season. His numbers were fine, and he did good enough. He did good enough. I'm gonna pull him up. You said he was ball. We're gonna define what balling is. Man, give me a second.
I don't know what y'all think a good quarterback is, right? Even Tom Brady took what the defense gave him.
He threw on just raw passes. He threw for 4,000 without nothing advanced. He threw for 4,048 yards, 25 touchdowns, and 14 picks.
Yeah,
that's not
certainly it's not MVP type of season. He wasn't slinging unless he was playing the Rams, because even in the first Rams matchup with the second Rams matchup, he played well in that game also. So it's like it's like those two teams.
He can rise to the moment. He can rise to the moment. I give him that. He can rise to the moment.
You got this year, right? Then you got to take into account last year. He's won. Listen, he's won. And listen, everybody look at quarterback just for yards. Yeah, if you never threw the quarterback, I can understand it. Listen, quarterback ain't just about yards. That's get highlighted. But if you can throw the ball around that field on those type of level defenses, the way the Patriots was playing, and the teams that were really could have been in a position to beat them, and the quarterback plays outstanding ball, he take what the defense give him. He reads the defense and he throws it to the open man. He don't make no unauthorized throws. He's grown from the old Sam Darnold. The old Sam Darnold, and I'll say this, and I'll give another projection. By next year, he'll be in the MVP talk the whole season.
Ooh, that's a big prediction.
I'm gonna predict it. I'm gonna predict it today.
Timestamp this segment, ladies and gentlemen.
Because we ain't talking about the Texans who lost 10 weeks ago. They better get to the playoffs. I hear you, Shani, but them in Dallas got a lot of work to do. Because they might not be.
Texas made it under C.J. Stroud. They made it all 3 years.
I'm just saying, making it to the playoffs and making it to the Super Bowl game. Well,
that's the Texans. They can't get out the division game. But Seattle, nobody saw Seattle even.
No,
I don't even know making it to the playoffs. Maybe the playoffs at the beginning of the season. Everything you just kept hearing about Darnold was because he was judged about his last 2 games in Minnesota. So they just thought, when it gets tight, because he made that comment, was nobody gonna let him forget when he said he was seeing ghosts.
Seeing ghosts.
And everybody just keep reminding them. And next thing you know, they just caught on fire. And he just you saw it in Minnesota. He had a good connection with Justin Jefferson, and he just continued with that with Smith and Jigma. That's why Justin Jefferson in Minnesota was kind of annoyed, because you're like, man, we had a quarterback, and then y'all gave him away for an unproven rookie, saying Minnesota's going to hear that for a long time, especially immediately he won the Super Bowl. Oh, they're going to hear that for a long time.
Gotcha. Question, guys. Were you guys good with the MVP being Walker. What you gave it to the field goal? Good. He set a Super Bowl record, 5 field goals in the game. If they didn't have those turnovers late, or if the field goals were the, would you have had a problem giving the Super Bowl MVP to a kicker, just in terms of principle?
Yes. Unless the game is like all field goal score. If all the scoring was field goals, and it was the game-winning field goal, I can see it. But other than that, I'm good.
Yeah, I can't see him doing it. I mean, they would if it would have continued to go the way it was, I could see him certainly giving to a defensive player. You're going to have 6 sacks in that game or something like that. But again, I just don't know if the NFL's ready to give it MVP. Unless it was like a 65, 70-yarder to win it or something like that. I don't know if they would ever give it to a kicker. I just don't think they would. Because, again, like you say, Walker was dominant in the first half. I thought it seemed like the Patriots defense was getting gassed towards the end of the first half. But then they clamped down on the second half until the game kind of got out of hand, and I think they broke the spirit of the Patriots. But I just can't see that that they would ever consider giving it to a kicker, even if he set a Super Bowl record.
I can see it happen the way Dante explained it, and even the caveat that you threw in there, right? Say one team only kicks field goals, the other team scores touchdowns, running, passing. And then the other team is up with 3 seconds left, and that field goal kicker kicked a 60-yard or 55-yarder to win, and he's been the only points for that team. He could get the MVP.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
there's one more comment I just wanted to show, to share. So this year, we also seeing, I guess, the continued preponderance of Nigerian-born players. Certainly, there's 4 of them, and I think Njigba, he's not Nigerian. I forget what his name is. I think it might be Cameroon. Is where his father's from. But we're starting to see more native African, or those of recent African descent, certainly as players. Certainly in the NFL. I don't see it as much at obviously at the quarterback position and whatnot, but it just seems like you're starting to see more starting to introduce into the game. Do you think this trend is just going to continue, where the game is going to get more, I guess, international in terms of player participation? And we already had the Samoans and the Pacific Islanders in the game. Now it seems like, the Nigerians, they're certainly making their ascent into the game also. But I just saw this. I saw this particular slide. I was getting photos for the show. And, so I was just thinking about, what you guys think of just the trend of just more and more first generation African native African players in the game. I don't know if you guys had paid attention to that. So Dante, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I did see that, and the funniest clip, if you want to see it, is Nick Emimori. You see his mother, and she had nothing about football, and it was funny to see her get interviewed about it. That was real funny. But I will say this: I do think you're going to continue to see the players there, but I think football is the last sport where a lot of their guys are still coming from the poorer populations and coming from those areas, coming from the Georgias of the world, the deep South, and it's kind of so much infrastructure. But I would say, hey, if
now,
you
doesn't Texas or Dallas have a large Nigerian American community there?
I know Houston has a big one. I'm not sure. I know there's some here in DFW, but I think Houston has a larger population.
Yeah, because then the guy from on Fox, what's
Emmanuel
Acho, the Acho brothers, aren't they from DFW?
They're from Dallas. They went to they're from Dallas. Yeah, the Acho. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Houston has a bigger Nigerian population. Houston is
huge
melting pot. Houston is like a smaller version of New York, because New York just has so much people, but it has diverse. New York is that's Houston. So between Nigerians, Asians, Hispanics, Blacks.
Yeah, that's how. Yeah, I mean, another way he was so popular is there's a big Asian population. So him coming to Houston was like just set off an explosion of the popularity and growth for the NBA.
So, Brother Bennett, in reference to the Africans, these were the first to win a Super Bowl?
No, I don't think they were the first, but you're starting to see more teams with, again, more African or recent African players on this team. So it's like there's a trend that's growing. You're starting to see it certainly at the linebacker positions, at defensive positions. Offense, I don't see it as much Certainly, the most famous Nigerian I remember is Christian Okoye from back in the day, the Nigerian Nightmare. I certainly remember him, but again, I'm going to be interested to see, are we going to see more guys at wide receiver? Are we going to start to see more quarterbacks? I don't think I've seen a prominent quarterback of a native African background, but is the trend going to continue? And you certainly see it even in basketball. You're starting to see a lot more African players from all over, in fact, they're even going there to recruit a lot of these players from the Congo and from similar regions. You saw the last Olympics, Team USA, they had their hands full with one of the African teams in one of the early rounds. So it just seems like, they're starting to have a place in the American landscape of sports. And certainly in basketball, and we're starting to see even more of it in football. And don't be surprised that you're just going to see more and more of these names on the back of the jerseys are not names that were necessarily the Smiths and the Jacksons might be replaced by the Nwusos and the Imararis and that sort of thing going forward.
I just think it's just, the Nigerian population is getting bigger, but a lot of these are like second generation Nigerians, and they was raised there in the country, many of them, and football is a very popular sport, so they were playing when they're younger, and it's more population of them playing.
But a lot of these guys weren't necessarily, from just my experience, a lot of them weren't necessarily encouraged to go into sports. They want education was really big and whatnot. But as far as, because it doesn't matter where you come, especially for the NFL, you got to be in it early and you got to be dedicated to it or whatnot. I don't know if a lot of, certainly in the 80s with those early Nigerian parents, they were like, okay, play sports. They were like, no, get your education, become a scientist, a doctor, or something like that. But now you're starting to see these guys starting to see what is possible, and they're taking that.
It's a lot of guys of various backgrounds. It's not just Nigerians; it's Haitians too. Pierre Garçon, Jonathan Velma, Cliff Avril. Who else? What's his name?
Who's the guy who used to play for the Saints? He played for the Saints and he played for the Jets for a time. Who was that?
Was Jonathan Vilma.
Jonathan Vilma. Yeah, he was Haitian too, right? Yeah.
He's Haitian. Who else? JPP, Jason Pierre-Paul. A lot of even Jerry Judy. Most people didn't realize Jerry Judy, Sonny Michel. A lot of those guys have a Haitian background. You got a lot of guys, not just from Nigeria, guys from Haiti, guys from even from Uganda, like Matthias Kiwanuka. I remember watching. Calm down, Trey. Matthias Kiwanuka, for example, his family's from Uganda, and the fact that and to show how much he has a strong love of his culture. On his back is the emblem of the Ugandan flag, and he rocks that with pride like it's nothing. So you're starting to see a lot of guys coming from Africa, come from the Caribbean, because I think Myron Roll, his family, even though he lived in the city, I think his family's originally from the Bahamas. So you got a lot of guys coming from the islands, from different parts of Africa. You have players coming from, let's be honest, you're starting to see players coming from Mexico. You got guys coming from Central South America. You got guys coming from Asia too. So you got a very large abundance of selection of players who have connections and background to a lot of other places. Like Kyler Murray, for example. On the back of his helmet, he rocks the flag of South Korea. Most people didn't know he's Korean on his mother's side. His maternal grandmother's from South Korea. And I think one player also, for example, was Osa Yomiuri. Even though he grew up in Britain, I think his family was originally from Nigeria. So you're starting to see a very large abundance of players whose parents are coming from these various locations.
It's not just.
Trey, I'm not questioning on that too. Like one
the chat.
But the one thing is, you're starting to see a lot of guys from various backgrounds coming into the NFL. Guys
right, and you're starting to also see in the game. I think the NFL, they're committed to 9 games overseas next year.
Yeah.
So again, So imagine if they start playing NFL games in Africa or in Asia or something like that. That's going to be ridiculous.
But that's what they're doing, really. It's the evolution of the game, right? Because you're going to take it out of the American-dominated players, right? These countries, these guys be 6'2", run a 4.5, 260. So and once they go there, they introduce those games to it. And I can see the NFL in the next 20 years being multi-diverse, certain players going to be. I think to see an African quarterback, that would be something.
Yeah, that's like that. That's almost just like in the 70s or the 80s, a black quarterback. Now, if to see a Nigerian or from another native African country at quarterback, that's going to be like the next. That's going to be like the next evolution in the game when you start seeing that name, who's basically the CEO of your offense, certainly on the jersey. So definitely we'll be seeing. Certainly what happens in the future on that front. But I also want to just talk about real quick again. As we put a bow on the NFL season, the last of the coaching carousel, the last two hires in the NFL. So Matt LaFleur, as expected, and Clint Kubiak certainly going to the Cardinals and the Raiders respectively. I think those certainly again this trend of the younger coach. Getting opportunities in the NFL, so I think that is certainly something that's and that room was filled. The sad part again, you only had one, I guess, minority hire. Saleh, who got hired, but outside of that, so again, people talk about the Rooney Rule and whatnot. Is it time to give up the Rooney Rule at this point, given that there were no hires this cycle? I know that. The commissioner, he was talking about it, Goodell, but what do you guys think about the Rooney Rule at this point? Is it even worth talking about at this point? Is it just got owners going to hire, they're going to hire, and is this the trend? We want to get the young. I mean, the Steelers, everybody was shocked when they hired Mike McCarthy, like kind of as a retread, but then they pointed to, again, the New England coach was a retread, and so obviously you got the Denver coach. So again, some people are still holding on to guys who've had success in the past. It's either those guys or these young new minds in the NFL. So what do you think this is going? And is it time to just do away? Should the Rooney Rule at this point should just die off? I'll start with Dante, and I'll just go down the line.
What I'll say is, and I'll say this as I heard on the podcast, I like Bomani Jones. He said, the Rooney Rule isn't the problem, it's the owners and their decision making. And I do believe not putting black coaches with the Rooney Rule in position to go and interview for the coordinator positions, for the head coaching positions, it'll get even worse. And I don't know how much worse you can get than 10 positions open and no black candidates, and only, like you said, one minority candidate with Robert Saleh, which again, retread. But they gotta be willingness to give other coaches opportunities. It's not even about age so much as coaches. You can give younger guys a chance. I hate to see that it was this bad, but I mean, it's going to be the change on the ownership.
Got you. Coach, your thoughts on this?
I mean, yeah, it's just unfortunate, man. We try to think we modern and we believe America should be all equal and all that, but it's just unfortunate, man. And I don't think they really intended to interview anybody this year. They were just doing with the same thing, but they can get. I can say if we chose one, but again, there's still the good old boys in office, man. What do we expect? Mm-hmm. They the still good old boys because they still try to undermine the players. We've seen it with Jerry Jones, but at least hire some coaches. And I said this, and I said, I would hope that there's some young guys out there who really want to be coaches, man. Young brothers, man, because they let these white boys coach, and they played at a little JUCO and there's some good brothers out there that really study the game, really want to get out there and just bring up a new crop of them. I'd rather see a young dude out there, 35, 38. Just keep them coming in every 4 or 5 years because McCarthy, he ain't going to do nothing for the Steelers. Steelers.
Oh, don't say. You had to step on it. We didn't even get to the preseason yet, man. Don't step on my dreams as of yet. Man. Come on, cut me some slack. But let's address some of what Trey's saying here. So he's saying that now again, Raheem. I didn't appreciate the firing. I thought he had that team playing very well towards the end of the season. You saw the QB issues that they had all year. Penix, and again, anytime you're going to go with Cousins. That's a hit or miss every day. So was he judged fairly? I didn't expect that firing to continue. And then likewise with Brian Flores. Now, Flores was a relatively successful coach. From what I understand, he got fired because he didn't want Tua. And basically, and then the owner wanted him to basically tank the season. He wouldn't do it. Now, again, is that fireable? I mean, the owners, they can fire anybody that they want. But again, are those fair assessments of those two coaches in particular? I just want to get your Shawnee. What do you think about these about the assessment of Flores and Raheem Morris?
Well, at the time when Flores, did that lawsuit, we pretty much, and I know people didn't want to admit it then because everybody was trying to be, I guess, hopeful or not. We pretty much saw like, okay, dude, your time as an NFL head coach may be over. You may just be a coordinator because you got a lawsuit going against the owners who you trying to get them to hire you as their head coach. To basically be the CEO of your team for the most part. And it's just like if anything, you saw these owners, man, they stick together for the most part. You saw what they did to Kaepernick. Mm-hmm. If they say they don't want you at a certain position, you're not going to get it. They're the gatekeepers. You try to be a head coach on their team, they say no. And you got no problem being a coordinator, but you're not going to be the head man. And I really didn't understand it when he did the lawsuit at that time because you knew he still wanted to be a head coach. I think he was trying to interview for the Giants position or Houston. I remember he was trying to
at the time. Yeah, it was Giants. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Bill Belichick did that, ill-fated text message, and that's what started the whole thing. But so Flores, I don't know, man. It has to be an owner that really got to go against the grain. Maybe a new owner who was not a part of this current. One thing about NFL ownership, they don't change that much a lot of time, which I don't blame them. I mean, hell, NFL is always a gold mine. Keep the money in the family. But they all tend to have the same mindset for the most part. So it's going to be hard to try to get a new owner with a new vision that may ultimately give Flores another shot. When it comes to Raheem Morris, I told y'all what happened. What I believe why Raheem Morris not the head coach of the Falcons anymore. When him and the GM got let go, it's the whole Michael Penix decision. Now I remember when they drafted Penix after they just spent money on Cousins. I remember the owner looked like he started having a conversation with them dudes in that draft war room, like right after they got Penix. Like basically, and I don't know what the details will say it, but he was like, what? I was curious, like on the level, like what is this move about? What is this move? We just spent this huge contract on a dude who just coming off an Achilles surgery, but then you're gonna draft our first pick with Penix, and Penix got his own medical issues. So I think when that happened, and then the way it went down, now you potentially have your franchise quarterback come, with a history of 3 knee surgeries, 3 ACL tears or whatnot. So it's like, I think that's why both of them got the boot, I believe. Mm-hmm. But as far as the Rooney Rule, right now it's just, I don't know, man. We interviewed a black coach, but he's not pretty much going to get it. It's just something that's to fulfill the quota. For the most part, teams are hiring head coaches or dudes they feel comfortable with. So, unfortunately, you see the comfortability. GMs and owners, they look alike. So they feel more comfortable, per se, with the coaches that look like them. Now, you can get down to the X's and O's. Unfortunately, I know you got Aaron Glenn and with the Jets, but the Jets are just a franchise. You understand it's only 32 positions, but that franchise, you saw it with Sam Darnold, you saw it with other, they don't know what they're doing over there. It's clear. And if you're a young quarterback or you're a head coach, you saw it with Robert Saleh, the way they did it after all the Aaron Rodgers mess. It's just like, dude, you kind of want to give them okay, we understand you with the Jets. Here's another chance, because we don't really, that organization has shown, but unfortunately for Glenn, because his first season was so bad, he's still there, but hopefully it won't be a marker. I don't know how the second season gonna go. They just have too much holes. and hopefully it's just not something he had to be held against him his whole career. You saw Robert Saleh get a new job with Tennessee. Maybe if Aaron Glenn, hopefully it will turn up around, but it's just not that much black coaches, available for the head coach position, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. Anybody else want to comment before we move on to the next block?
Real quick, I'll just go say certain teams in the NFL, like those original teams from Green Bays and Jets, they can win. They can go 1-16 for the next 25 years, and they'll always have a team that they'll sort of grandfather. And just certain teams like it. It's just unfortunate that a brother would take that job, right? And we'll see what they do in the draft, because if they don't do anything to fix it, if I was him, I would just retire. Like, the hell with y'all. Because it'd be a waste of time, because you pile up all these losses, and then you go for an interview and you don't even get hired. But then, they hire some of these dudes that really don't deserve a job, in my expectation. But it is what it is. They control the money.
The Jets have always been a dumpster fire, and I'm a Jets fan. All right, I can say that. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. They're a dumpster fire. But the one thing I'll say the Jets have done that not even the Giants have done, they've had 3 more black head coaches than the Giants and the Cowboys and a good number of other teams in this league. All right. Yes, we got Aaron Glenn now, but we had Todd Bowles, we had Herman Edwards, and we had Robert Saleh. So we've had coaches of color run our organization, no matter how good or bad they are. None of these other teams can say that, plain and simple. All right. And I like the fact that Brian Flores still has his lawsuit going against the NFL, because I'm hoping he opens up that Pandora's box and exposes the nonsense and shenanigans that's going on with these 31 owners. Yes, 31 owners, because the Packers are publicly owned. But it also shows what's also the problem with the NFL, because Raheem Morris, 2 years, he's out. Steve Wilkes had, I think, like 2 years. He was fired.
I think he was 1 year. I think Wilkes was like 1 season.
That was the 1 year in Arizona? Was it the 1 year in Denver?
No, 1 year Arizona's gone.
Yeah, and that's the problem. That's the biggest problem, and that's what Flores is showing. You got some of these coaches here, and you're giving them such a short rope. It's literally a Kobayashi Maru, a no-win scenario. Nothing they'll ever do is good enough. The only other black head coach I can think of that never won a Super Bowl title, that had longevity, Marvin Lewis, when he was with the Cincinnati Bengals. And he was there for 18 years. They won division titles. They never won a playoff game. But he got the same job stability as what John Harbaugh did when he was with the Baltimore Ravens. And that's the problem.
Yeah, and his was a special situation for a cheap ass owner. They just not wanting to fire him, and he was and they were so bad because he was coming off, because growing up in the 90s, the Bengals were so bad. Like him, and that stench was on them. So him getting that job and position, which is a lot of the problem, is the black head coaches get the bad jobs, and when you get the job, obviously when they fire you, you're going to be able to chill for a little bit because you're going to get those millions of dollars that you're owed. But at the same time, you're not going to get the head coach again. So it's like the black head coaches are in a position where, do I wait out for the best job to interview for to get? But if I keep standing back, and then my stock goes down, because a lot of the coaches are coming from the defensive ranks, which is another issue. Black coaches cannot get into the offensive coordinator position or take it seriously. Literally, Byron Leftwich, NFL quarterback, offensive coordinator for a Super Bowl winning team. And is he a quality control guy now? What is he? He just kind of, went by the wayside. Like, they don't get the legitimate opportunities in the coaching pipeline of the offensive side. So it's tough. I would say that the black coaches have to fight more to get on the offensive side. And there are some young coaches that are coming along, like the guy the Cowboys just hired, Christian Parker. If he's able to turn around a putrid defense, if he makes an assistant defense in 2 or 3 years, he'll be a legitimate head coaching candidate. And I think he's like 34, 35. So it's like, you almost have to be young enough to get in the game and then grind it out, and it's going to take a while. And that's just what you have to deal with at the current circumstance. But to the guy in the chat that was saying, we need to start our own league. Trey's hits it on the head. Like with what capital? Like there's football is real expensive from stadiums to insurance, salaries. That's just not feasible.
The other problem also is this: there were other black coaches that never got another call. Ray Rhodes is one. Sherman Lewis was a very well-known defensive coordinator. He's been interviewed. He interviewed a few times. He never got a phone call after a certain period of time. It's just the fact that they have a very short shelf life. One offensive coordinator other than Brian Leftwich that could have been seen as a head coach candidate, T. Martin.
Yeah, T. Martin.
And all he's done, he's either worked either in the NFL or he's worked in college. And yet he doesn't get any calls whatsoever or any type of recognition for the jobs that he has done too. And I think he's 50, 51, maybe a little bit younger. So who knows, if he even has an opportunity to get a coaching job at his age. But this is really showing the nonsense and the BS that's going on with the NFL. And they've always had this problem. And I think the other thing also is this. The only owner in the NFL that don't look like a lot of those colonizers, Shahid Khan of the Jacksonville Jaguars. But the last time you saw a new owner come into the league, into the NFL, other than Zygi Wilf, I think it was Terry Pegulas when he bought the Buffalo Bills. And how long ago was that? So these guys are going to stay running these teams till they will to their grandkids. You already see that with the Giants. That's been in the family. That's been in the house and Tish family for God knows how long. Chicago Bears. That's been in the.
Oh yeah, they ain't giving that up. Yeah, McCuskey's in the house. Yeah, that's like Steelers, Rooney's. Yeah, that's legacy.
So you're not going to see. I doubt you're going to see any of these families sell their teams. I don't think so. I really don't. Yes, you want to see some new owners. You want to see some, new faces making these decisions that run these organizations. I think the only other new owner that came in was what's his name that also owns the Philadelphia 76ers and the New Jersey Devils, Josh Daniels or something. I think his name's Josh Daniels. I could be wrong.
I can't.
But other than that, every new owner that's come in within the last 5-10 years don't look like any of us. Mm-hmm. And you got guys and you have people that have the capital. But
it's only a few. Only a few like that have the capital. And then the thing is, it is a club where you're vetted for years. So that process, to be honest, I'm not gonna lie to you. When it comes to ownership and then them being owners, now we've seen this on multiple levels, so I don't want to go too far into this. If you're someone back then and you make it to $1 billion range, how many sacrifices did you make to get to that point? You are not likely going to align with everyone on this show, how we kind of align and how we think things should go as far as workers' rights and things of that nature. If you got to that billion status, you're going to be status quo and do the same thing, but have a black face and do everything just as they live. So I don't think the ownership thing is quite like a solvable issue. It's more of a owners. Are you going to, do you want the best candidates? There have been many surveys done and showing the research to where it's like, hey, by you not expanding to get the most candidates, you're not getting all the bang for your buck to finding the right person. You're keeping it to a short pool of people, and therefore either they hit or they don't instead of going into someone else. What's going on, Hank? But yeah, that's all I got on the topic.
All right, we can move in. We can, we can take this for the rest of the show on this, but I just wanted to kind of bring that up for a brief discussion. But let's move on certainly as we wrap up the NFL season. Congratulations to the class of 2026 Hall of Fame class, and I was the only one on the panel who picked Adam Vinatieri, who's going to make it in. Everybody said the kicker's not getting in. You had Trey was talking about, you got to put an offensive lineman in or a defensive lineman in. None of those guys got in, but shout out to certainly Adam Vinatieri. Got Luke Kuechly, who certainly, again, 5-time All-Pro, was certainly destined for it, but he had to leave the game due to injuries. And then you also have, Larry Fitzgerald, which I think everybody was in alignment on. And obviously from the legacy ballot, Roger Craig first. I think he was the first running back to rush for 1,000 yards and I think catch for 1,000 yards, if I'm not mistaken. So again, certainly congrats to him getting in his class. And just to kind of give, certainly the guy we all expect to get in, Drew Brees. Again, this guy's got crazy passing numbers and whatnot. So again, congrats to him to getting in. Just to kind of give a heads up, the class of 2027. So again, for the guys who thought were going to get in, it may get even harder. Certainly next year when these guys come up on the ballot. So again, the 2027 class in terms of guys who are eligible, I'll say right off the bat, I don't think certainly Gerald McCoy or Cam Newton, I don't think they're ever getting in. I don't think they have Hall of Fame careers, period. So even though Cam does have an NFL MVP, I don't think he gets in under any circumstances. So, but certainly just looking at the list of guys that we talked about last week, so we can scratch off some names off this list. But certain guys I still don't like. Manning, I think he may get in like kind of Roger Craig did. He may get in down the line because you got currently Jim Plunkett. He didn't get in. So if I don't see him getting any time soon. And again, with these O-linemen, Terrell Suggs and these guys, will they get in next year? We'll have to see. But any thoughts on the Hall of Fame class of 2026, and certainly for the guys who are going to be eligible next year, the class that's coming in, as well as the guys still on the list from this past year? Who do you think off top? Who do you think kind of gets in? And another thing, I will say this. I don't know if Adrian Peterson gets in first ballot because of that stuff that happened, the off the field that happened with his kid. I don't know if he's getting in either. Certainly not on first ballot. I think they'll hold it against him because I know at the time that was a pretty, controversial situation. So I'll start with Dante. Your thoughts on the class of 2026 and future prospects for 2027 in terms of a class who gets in next year.
What I got to start off with is, shout out to the class of 2026 and making it to the Hall. Congratulations to them. I don't agree with Adam Vinatieri. He had some clutch picks, but when you dive a little deeper into it, it doesn't just scream Hall of Fame. But it is what it is. I would say that Drew Brees, I definitely agree with Brees and Fitzgerald. Definitely making sure that they got in first ballot. I agree with it. What I will say is going now, Miss Bennett, I would say is I want to use as a litmus test going forward. Can we use guys? Because at first when I heard Luke Kuechly, and I was like, really? His career was kind of short. And then when I looked at it, I said, 7 All-Pros. Oh, my bad. It's been so long. I forgot about that. Yeah, that's definitely, Hall of Fame worthy on the first ballot. You were impactful player, defensive player of the year. That's a short type of resume that I would say. So when we say guys that are, what do you say? They're, hanging on or whatever, and just, hanging on.
Compilers,
compilers. He is the quintessential on the list of not a compiler. Patrick Willis, not a compiler. Just pure greatness. Hey, body couldn't take it, made enough money, get out of the game. But I would say once again, I do have to say, and I know y'all mentioned it a little bit because y'all are older, so y'all have a different sphere of everything. What I'll say is growing up and watching Darren Woodson and hearing about him, I didn't realize in my time of knowing football, I know about nickel packages and doing that. And he was a guy that as a safety, he was able to actually play the nickel so they didn't have to change the formation much. Also would come in and play, as far as nickel packages, play some linebacker. And of course, he was a safety by trade. So having those type of skill set, being a multiple All-Pros and being a part of a Super Bowl team, through Super Bowl teams. And I know I said, hey, they won it. Well, I believe they won it his rookie year. So he won it his rookie year, won his next year, and then, gap year, and then he on the third one. And he was just, a pretty prominent player for the organization. And so I feel like, hey, he does deserve it. I feel like if you've asked other people, when I saw that Leroy Butler made it, I was like, huh. And I heard other people that are, in and around the league, and was like, Leroy Butler he's not a better player than Darren Woodson. And so, it feels like he's just kind of getting skipped over a little bit. But what I say going into next year, I think it's a respect thing for the Cam Newtons of the world to get, nominated for as high as they were drafted. That was a great draft class, but not Hall of Fame. I'm a big Cam Newton guy. Adrian Peterson should make it first ballot. It's just they're gonna bring up they're gonna bring up the stuff, and then he just had an incident where he got into something. So that's something for sure that he
Mhm.
might get kept out, but he's definitely worthy of being a Hall of First ballot. I would say for my money, Robert Gronkowski should be a first ballot guy. And I'll say, as a Cowboy fan, I'll be honest, I'm not tripping on Jason Witt not making it. The only thing with him, when you get critical of it, you can bonus and say, hey, he was one of the last complete tight ends. Gronk was a complete tight end, but the number of touchdowns to your contemporary was not as high as theirs. So that's where he had the yards and catches, but not the touchdowns. So if you want to hold him out for that, I respect it. Also, if you do want to respect the other guys, when they get up for it, the Travis Kelce's of the world didn't block. Tony Gonzalez didn't block, but the numbers offensively were so high. So I understand it.
Gotcha. Coach, thoughts on the class of 2026 and potential class of 2027? Oh, and take Antonio Brown out even though I think he's one of the best of all time. We'll talk about that in the next block. He ain't getting in first ballot either. He may not get on the 10th ballot. But go ahead, Coach.
I mean, 2026 class, it's a lot of names, but I think they made the best picks. I like Vinatieri, but who's to say if he didn't have deflated balls either? But, he won some, and we was talking about that earlier. He won some games, and he didn't, he wasn't a primary scorer, but he won a game, and that got him there. And he had a consistent career out once he went to the Colts. He was still kicking at a high level. So, yeah, I'm not mad at that. Class of 27, I want to say 2. And that would be Ben and Andrew Whitworth because, again, although Adrian Peterson deserves it, they may hold that against him, just like Antonio Brown. But Richard Sherman, I don't think, and Gronk, I think Gronk, they love Gronk, so it'd be interesting to see how much they've been having him all over TV if he doesn't make a first ballot. So I think that'll get him in right there just because of his popularity outside of football. He's on commercials, insurance commercials. He's all over the place. So I think he'll get in, Big Ben and Whitworth just out of this class right here.
Gotcha. Shawnee?
Yeah, I don't have I really don't have an issue with the names that was chosen for the 26th class. Of course, that's always going to be shadowed because Belichick is not a part of that group, and the owner. But I'm not. I believe all 5 that were chosen are all deserving of this spot. As for the 27, like you mentioned, Antonio Brown, he's not. His on the field, yes, he will. But we already seen the voters. They will inquire your personal behavior or their personal feelings regarding your off the field behavior. They're gonna consider that. And with Brown, hell, you got to consider some of his on field behavior. I mean, his last memory of him was literally running off the football field in the middle of a game. So Antonio Brown, he's going to be. They may milk Antonio to the last day of eligibility just because he was just that much of a headache. And you can't. I mean, I can't say. I blame him because a lot of that stuff you're like, dude, what are you doing? But I believe he's going to get in there. He's going to get in there, but yeah, he may get in there by 1 vote. Gronk, I could see him being first ballot. Gronk was one of the most difficult tight ends because I think he had some injuries or whatnot. If he was just always playing, I think Gronk his name would be up there as most of the greatest tight ends of all time. He had the size, he had the hands. He was a matchup nightmare.
Yeah.
And him and Brady, it was just an unstoppable combo. I mean, Gronk was like 6'7"? Oh, he was just an end zone
like
night.
6'6".
Well, his catch radius was like 9 feet.
It was huge.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what. Over the years, DeAndre Hopkins was one of my favorite receivers, of recent NFL history because of his catch radius. Gronk had that for the tight end as well. He was just a matchup nightmare, and I think he had some injuries here and there. He was there for the Super Bowl, so he was able to get those. But I think if he would have just been more available during some seasons, his name would definitely be stamped and like the greatest tight end of all time. You couldn't, if somebody wanted to present a case for him, they could present a case for him versus any other tight end. And Cam Newton, I just think he's just on the list because he's eligible.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Cam is not he's not a Hall of Fame quarterback. He's just eligible. You know, there's some other names. I'm pretty sure these are just more the standout names. They have the full list. It may be some other names that we would think they'd probably be more deserving than the 8 right here that's shown on the list right now. But, you know, it's going to be interesting. I'm waiting for that class of 28 because that's when Tom Brady is eligible. And we all this drama with Belichick. I'm waiting. That's what I'm waiting on.
Hey, Shawnee, I'm going to tell you real quick. I still believe, even though he didn't have the longest career as far as a pure tight end, he did the pass catching stuff, and as an inline blocker, he was a dominant player. But someone that they always say because of his stats are higher because he didn't have the injuries, Travis Kelce has 13,000 yards and 82 touchdowns. Rob Gronkowski has 92 touchdowns. He was a monster. Yeah. He was a monster. Golly. And he's a 4-time All-Pro, and so is Kelce. And it's just like he's one of those ones where he had a shorter career, but like we was just saying, the fact of the impact and not being a compiler. Because right now Kelce is compiling. A few years ago he wasn't, but now it's just like, man, you're not the same guy. But I mean, Rob was a beast. I think he's got a strong chance of it. We forgot about Richard Sherman. He's up for it, and I looked at it.
Not a first ballot. Not a first ballot.
He's not going to be a first ballot, but he's somebody that's going to get consideration with the names listed. Because I would say if we're going to talk about conduct, somebody's not going to make it. Somebody had 2 allegations of situations, and Adrian Peterson had other ones, and so I think Big Ben and Adrian Peterson may not make it when they put that microscope on.
And shout out to my Joey Porter putting out today. He spilled all the tea on the Steelers, both James Harrison and Ben Roethlisberger. So we may say that for another show, but certainly all the stuff's coming out. Anton, get in here. Your thoughts on the 2026 class and potential 2027 class Hall of Fame.
Okay, to the newest class. Congratulations. Roger Craig was long overdue.
Yeah.
Let's be honest, it was long overdue. Larry Fitzgerald getting in. One person that I definitely know who's excited that he got in, Randy Moss. Because people forget Larry's father worked for the Vikings. Yes. And Fitzgerald Jr. was one of the ball boys at the old Metrodome for the Vikings. And the one receiver he always who was around and he emulated was Randy Moss. And that's no disrespect to Chris Carter, but it was Randy Moss. And I know Tip Drill, aka Straight Cash Homie, is excited that he got it. All right. All to the other ones, congratulations as well. As for 27, let's be honest. You might as well just take Antonio Brown and Adrian Peterson and take them off the ballot. Let's just get that off from the jump.
Yeah.
Gronk has a very good chance because, like Dante say, he was a matchup nightmare. And when you think of some other tight ends that were that talented and were matchup nightmares, a couple of old school guys come to mind, like Ozzie Newsome and Kellen Winslow. Because those are the guys that became used, and also Mike Ditka, because those guys were the standard bearers of what the tight end. They weren't just an extra lineman to block or anything else. These were guys that can go out and catch and get things done if need be. So Gronk has a very good chance to get it in. Richard Sherman, I don't know about first time. I remember he had one situation off the field, but it wasn't as serious as both Brown and Peterson.
Yeah.
So they're probably not going to hold that against them.
Mm-hmm.
Roethlisberger was I won't say a head case. He did get caught up in a few things that was questionable. some things that he did when he was in college, a lot of things early in his career when he was with the Steelers, and then of course the little accident he had when he was riding his Harley without a helmet. He did get himself together. He cleaned himself up. He got himself right. I don't know if he's going to get in on the first time either. He might get in on the second time, on the second go around. Cam Newton,
No.
I can't find anything. I'm not saying he's not talented.
Yeah.
But
now he's certified, like he deserves to make it into the college one, but not to, because we've never seen just one season like that, a team with an offense with no other NFL players, and then you win and that you beat everybody and run the table and win the title. And so but the NFL, he would have needed probably 5 more quality seasons to be able to be heavily considered. And I just think that's just fair. You can't water. I would, because my thing is, I didn't want to speak on Roger Craig. I heard other people that, kind of from the generation was kind of like, Roger Craig was kind of a Hall of Very Good type. But I honestly thought he was already in, because when those players have those runs of great teams for a decade, in an era that was basically like one of the teams of the 80s, I figured he was already in. Just like when you said L.C. Greenwood, I was like, he's not in the Hall of Fame, and I was shocked.
Now, I was shocked when Drew Pearson wasn't in the Hall of Fame. I'm saying the
original. That really hurts home, because with my family, they love Drew. Basically, all the 88 there love him. You get stabbed with that number, we know what it means, and my family, we love it. So I've been told about the greatest Drew Pearson my entire life, and so when I was waiting for him to get in, the Rayfield Wrights of the world, rest in peace. Those guys, when you look at their resumes. And then Shawnee, it goes back to Shawnee, and I think that's a great way to stamp it. If you were all decade, usually you do make it into the Hall of Fame.
Exactly.
You risked to make it in the 70s and not to be held out was kind of crazy. But I did see, and I figured he will get in, just not first ballot probably. But Richard Sherman was the corner I liked, and I went and looked at it. I thought he had more All-Pros. He only had 3, but he had I would say what really stamped it for me, when he went to San Francisco, when he was looked to be washed and done, and he made the All-Pro at San Francisco. I was like, okay, so you made it at the end. I was like, okay, definitely stamp it, because that Seahawks defense, man, that's another one that he's been there for a long time. Earl Thomas, man.
Listen, as much as I can't stand the Cowboys, I can't be mad at Drew Pearson, because where is he from, Anton?
Jersey,
South River. Played high school ball with Joe Theismann. so I gotta say, Jersey represents. So I got to give it to him. It's like a good friend of mine. He's a cousin of his. So I could only be so upset, because I knew the family connection. So I can only be so too upset about that.
He come from the old school era. One of the Dallas writers said they worked a summer job with Drew Pearson. He was a mall, stacking stuff. Those were them guys still had to really grind.
Oh yeah, they had to have jobs off season. Absolutely.
When I said that, I have a different level of respect, and I know that Hall of Fame stamp means something for him. That's money he can make now that he couldn't make in that time.
Exactly.
So I don't want to get too emotional, but that one, that one.
But wasn't he already in the Ring of Ring of?
Yeah, he was already in the Ring of Honor.
Okay.
When he got that stamp, it was because the majority, the glory days were the glory days, but the majority of the Cowboys Ring of Honor guys, they're in the Hall. So normally the year before they go, they'll put them in and be like, hey, signifying this is a Hall of Fame type of guy.
Right.
So him not making it.
So I got that. So all right. So still, in your view, the greatest 88 in Cowboy history is still Michael Irvin.
Michael Irvin. My personal favorite, as far as a time in picture, as far as a fan favorite, is Bryant. That was a big one. But it was a short.
That's what I was asking.
Michael Irvin will always be just the playmaker. Always and forever, man. Always and forever.
I met Michael Irvin at the NFL draft back, I think it was in 2012. Passionate, loves the game of football, passionate about family, very passionate about the University of Miami. And just seeing
annoying.
But he
but I respect it.
Yeah, but he honestly said being at the University of Miami saved his life, because he didn't think he would ever get into college. He never thought he would ever get into college. And he saw football got him into college, into a place like the University of Miami, and most people don't realize University of Miami is a private school.
Yes. Not a whole bunch of big money. That is a private. Them doing that when they did it at the time, when I what I read from the documentaries and seen, that was because nobody knew all this local talent, and so they built it up. And they, stay home, be this, be that. Like when you got guys, and I meant a lot to me. It was like they were getting into clubs and the parties over Miami Dolphins because they were that popping. And so I don't want to cut y'all. This comment right here. All right. So
I want to bring this up because I know because Deion Sanders he mentioned he said something similar, that basically the Hall of Famers should be choosing the Hall of Famers. All right. But I think, Dante, you had some pushback on that. So I just want to get everyone's thoughts on this comment again. And thanks for Wild Williams 454. Thank you for being part of the chat tonight. I know you've been pretty active out there. Appreciate you being here. But your thoughts on this. I want to start with the coach first on this one. Do you think that, again, Pro Bowl should be picked by the players, same as the Hall of Fame? So do you think that they should have more of a role or an influence in choosing the Hall of Famers, or would you prefer that the standard, especially given what happened with Belichick and with Kraft, do you think it should kind of stay the way it is, or do you think that certainly the Hall of Famers should be choosing the Hall of Famers? Is that something that you would endorse? Your thoughts on that, Coach, and then we'll go to Sean, Dante, and Anta. Go ahead, Coach.
Coach, you're up first.
You go ahead, mute.
My bad. What did you say? What was the question?
So again, to the comment here in the chat here.
Comment.
Yeah, Pro Bowl should be picked by the players, same as the Hall of Fame. So do you think that should be changed? Like, let's talk just about the Hall of Fame itself. Do you think that the Hall of Fame inductees should have some voting rights in terms of who gets into the Hall of Fame, or should the process stay the way it is currently?
I think it should be a mixture of both. You just rotate the Hall of Fame players who are already elected every 4 or 5 years, rotate another voting group. So just within, that dynamic, because players know Pro Bowl caliber. Fans, we more emotional. Our player was on our team for 10 years, but I think it should be a mixture, and it'll bring more parity. But yeah, the Hall of Fame is about the money anyway, so they're gonna let you in when they decide to let you in. But I think it should be a mixture, because a lot of people invest in these sports, and so I don't see the NFL going anywhere in the next 30, 40 years. The ownerships will change. So, yeah, just bring more interpersonal dynamic to it as far as the Hall of Fame. Because, and I say this now, shut up, I can go back to players from the 70s. And I can say, man, these players today, man, they're a little soft. But then you get some players 5, 10 years removed, like they can see the players of the future current at that time. That's going in my head. But yeah, just open it up a little bit. Stop gatekeeping, because we've seen the debacle. This proved that it need to be a little bit more open. Even some news reporters, a couple of fans, just open it up for a short window, 10,000 fans per state. What I don't know, just try something. So it'll be interesting to see.
Gotcha. Shawnee, your thoughts on this?
I really don't have an issue with media or journalists being the voters as long as they're objective. I don't like when they start being too subjective and then all that personal feelings get involved. I damn sure don't want the fans to go, because we see how they ruin the NBA All-Star. I mean, they just pick favorites, and I have a feeling if you have. I don't mind what Coach presented, saying it be a mixture. I'd rather have more journalists and players. I wouldn't mind if some of them was in there. Maybe they can kind of keep them honest as far as, keep them. If they make the rules, the voting rules tighter, then it'll be cool. I think voters and players, if you put them in, they'll try to let everybody in. Man, they love everybody for the most part. Especially depending on what generation you pick on. Maybe the 90s generation players will be a little bit more harder on accepting some of the 2010s. I don't know, something like that. If you put players, because they would definitely be subjective because there may be a player that they really respected while they were playing. They were trying to really spend the majority of their time trying to battle for them to get a Hall of Fame spot. So I really don't mind journalists and the media being the voters. I just don't like it when people use too much of their own personal feelings, and that can become whether it's media, players. I'm not fans. They don't, because fans will screw the whole thing up. Especially if you look at the Hall of Fame, it's supposed to be like a sacred club amongst the sport, the best of the best. Fans will ruin that. I remember one time in the NBA, man, they voted Carmelo Anthony to start, and he didn't even play. He didn't play all season. I'm like, how you do this? They're gonna do the same thing with the NFL Hall of Fame, make a joke of it. But yeah, I really don't mind the current. It's just the rules. I want them to make the rules tighter so they can get personal feelings out of it. Keep what the NFL, keep what the players' production on field, unless they just a knucklehead. Like we was talking about Antonio Brown, the stuff that he was doing, it's just so hard to turn your head because he keep coming back in your picture and your frame of vision and doing something else stupid. So like, man, we trying to ignore you, but you keep doing this dumb and just adding on. So they're gonna ultimately have to consider it. T.O., he didn't do nothing like that. He was just, I guess, not the friendliest to the media, so they took it personal. But he didn't have no scandal or anything like that. He played hard every time his feet touched the field. It was just personal feelings. What happened to Terry Owens was strictly personal feelings that you want out. Belichick, for the most part, is strictly personal. I know they're gonna mention these scandals, whatnot, but hey, if the dude still won 6. It's almost kind of like how we look at Barry Bonds in baseball. Okay, if y'all want to make a big deal about that, strip the steroids from him. He was still a Hall of Famer even before then. So you can, whatever. If I think both of those, Deflategate, which I believe is more Brady than Belichick, and then Spygate, and I think all that's just something because he was winning so much. It was just something to throw a dart to throw at Belichick to try, kind of deflate his invisibility bubble. I mean, we got to get to this dude. He's winning too damn much. But yeah, I don't mind the current process as long as stricter rules and personal feelings are getting taken out.
Gotcha. Dante?
All right, so what I'll say is, and this is, basically, I'll put it like this. When it comes to people putting emotions and feelings in it, you can't take the human element out of it. If you're going to do that, you can just do it by computer and put all the stats in and everything and just let it come out. And so we don't need to do it that way. Taking former players is one of the worst ideas. Guys, how many, and everybody in the chat, let me know, how many times do you hear former players with terrible sports opinions? Well, Brandon Marshall is probably Brandon Marshall, Emmanuel Acho, 2 of the worst. Shady McCoy, some of the worst. And it's like, no, I don't need you picking the Hall of Fame, bro. I don't need you picking. Deion Sanders, he was clowning people for.
Well, hang on, but those guys aren't Hall of Fame. But those guys aren't Hall of Fame.
No. Being a Hall of Famer doesn't make your sports opinion more valid. It doesn't. Deion Sanders, when he was doing the broadcasting, do you know how many players they said did not want to get the call because you ball? They didn't want to deal with Deion in his shenanigans. They didn't want to deal with that. Deion was literally picking players that he felt was better in this position. And they were like, how is this guy in this position as an all-pro? It was like, Deion, have you not looked at any of his film? Have you not looked at those guys aren't looking at the games. They're rich and happy and they're getting pulled a million different directions. Like, yes, some newspaper article writers do have vendettas. But please believe if you put the Tom Brady's of the world, any of those guys in there, and the voting when you do vote, it's not put out there who voted for and who did vote against. It just shows the complete tally. There's going to be some vendettas against some guys like the Shannon Sharps of the world. If you've heard any of his content, he has a problem with the Cowboys. So you think the Jason Wentz of the world? No, he didn't play the game like me. He did. It's going to come a lot of the jealousy and all those things. So that's not going to solve anything either. I would say there are a lot of writers because these writers, they are following the game at a close level. A lot of them beat writers. day in, day out with the team. They're seeing practices, they're seeing games, they're at every game. So they're literally judging it. So unless we're gonna go ahead and discredit to all pros and everything, because and also for the fact of voting for Pro Bowls and players are too busy in the season. That's why the NFL greatest 100 best players voted on by the players ain't worth a damn. They said literally players get a list and say check, check, check. Players vote for Pro Bowl guys and vote for the guys that were terrible. They voted for guys that haven't been playing too, Shiny. So it's like they're not paying attention. So players and fans have shown that hey, they might not be the best. Right? The best thing is to, like you said, if you want to have a special panel like the NFL Hall of Fame voters do, or if you want to do this for Pro Bowls, for every level of guys that's going to tie the guys' money, have a special panel to build on that. Because there are players I've heard that they was like, hey, off of reputation, they made the all defensive team or they made this Pro Bowl. So I think there's no perfect way to do it, but a Hall of Famers doing it, I think that'll be a terrible idea.
Gotcha. All right, Anton.
It's going to be a challenge because what you're starting to see with a lot of the football writers is they're taking a page out of the baseball writers because the baseball writers are petty. Because of the fact that when you find out Barry Bonds still to this day still not in Cooperstown, and now you start to see that with a lot of these NFL writers being petty, and you don't want that. I mean, some players, Pro Bowlers, yes, but also the one thing that's scary about that too, even you want to pick guys who didn't play in that era, who maybe like one or two decades distance away, because some guys may still have animosity or pettiness, if not towards the player, towards the organization. You got guys who still carry gripes to this day towards a certain team for whatever reason. And they may like the athlete, but they play for this particular team, they're not going to pick them. So it's like you're never going to find the perfect solution. And that's going to be the challenge. With whether it's players, whether it's writers, whether it's fans, you're never going to have a perfect system. And I don't know. That's the best way I can look at it.
Gotcha. Just real quick, just want to give put a bow on the season. So we have the NFL honors. So again, congrats to Matthew Stafford at age 37. Can barely move, but still won NFL MVP this year. Jackson Smith and Jigba, again, getting the offensive player, and Myles Garrett. I think that's back-to-back DPOYs. So he's clearly the more dominant pass rusher in the league. I won't go over everybody here, but again, Mike Vrabel getting Coach of the Year candidate. So I don't have a problem with anybody on this list. If anybody thinks of someone who should have been more worthy or deserving of one of the honors, I know for MVP, I know they were talking about Drake May for a minute, but certainly with that Super Bowl performance, I don't think that that was necessarily warranted. But anybody wants to real quick their thoughts on the award winners this year? Shout out to Bobby Wagner for Walter Payton Man of the Year. I know a lot of these guys do a lot of community service, so shout out to him as well. But any thoughts on any of these or someone you would have picked over these guys?
Quick thought on it real quick. Oh, go ahead, Sean.
No, I think I gotta remember. I gotta look on the history. I think Walter Payton Award that almost gets them to the Hall.
I was about to say that. That's his Hall.
Yeah, I gotta look at that because every Walter Payton Award winner, I know because it's given by their community service and stuff like that. But I believe when they win that award, I know they they leave the patch on them for pretty much the rest of their career when they playing. But I believe they also get a Hall of Fame bid for that too. The MVP vote, which I didn't know until somebody said it, I heard on TV. I think that was like the closest vote. I don't know of all time, but almost, because Stafford had 24 first place votes and May had 23. Mm-hmm. I didn't know it was just that close. But yeah, it was. I like in NFL, I always consider that award a QB award. I know Smith and Jigma, he won the Offensive Player of the Year. If go back, man. If Saquon Barkley didn't win MVP his season, I mean, if you're not a quarterback, you're not gonna win it. You know, it's just a quarterback award now. So, I mean, I believe there was that last year? Remember the MVP award? It was either or 2 seasons ago. Last time Dak Prescott even had a chance of even winning it. But that particular year, you remember, they was just changing. It was Dak Prescott like for 2 weeks, Brock Purdy, and then Brock Purdy played the Ravens and Lamar. The Ravens dominated the 49ers that game, so instantly Lamar became the new number one who ultimately went to go win the MVP. That year, they didn't know who to give the award to, you know, but they just had to give it to a quarterback because that's all it goes to. So, but yeah, the thing I was just looking at, I was just curious about that Walter Payton Award winner, because I believe if you win that gets you a Hall of Fame.
I think what they try to do is kind of like, you can on community service, you can probably out community service a Bobby Wagner. Well, Bobby Wagner is already headed towards the Hall, so they want it to be like we just mentioned about guys having good reputations. They want the Hall of Fame guy to be Hall of Fame off the field, Hall of Fame on the field. They don't want to let too many Lawrence Taylors in. But he was so amazing. So you had to do it. You had to do it. You had to do what you had to do. You had to let the Michael Irvins in. And so, you know, so they do that in that regard. I've noticed that trend. That's why I want certain players to have more success so that they can make the Hall. But what I will say is special shout out to the guys for Texas football, but especially for Dallas Fort Worth football. Myles Garrett, Arlington Martin High School, DFW, Matthew Stafford, Highland Park High School in Dallas, and then Jackson Smith and Jigba from a school, Rockwall, Texas, from Rockwall High School, all DFW guys. So shout out to them for bringing it home. If you ever wanted a reminder of how good Texas high school football is.
Oh, yeah. I remember,
shout out to all those guys.
No, I was about to say real quick that I believe, Mr. Benny, you shared that photo with the 3 of them, the Texas boys, with Stafford, Garrett, and Smith and Jigma.
Yeah.
And I was looking at when I saw that, I was like, okay, Arlington and Rockwall kind of similar. Meanwhile, where Stafford from,
big money.
That's big. Yeah, that's big money, right?
Yeah,
that's big money.
That's big. That's big. I think
their neighborhood is right over about SMU. Because I want to say, one time I was on like a junior day for SMU, and I was like, you know, some of those like DFW used to be a lot bigger when I was growing up. So like when I see a place, I was like, oh, this is where Highland Park is. I was like, oh, that's why now I have no reason to be over here. I have no reason to be over in South Lake at the South unless you know somebody, because that is big money over there. So it's just like, yeah.
I hear that.
All right. Well, congratulations to all the guys that got their awards and everything else. Respect to all of them. Definitely respect to Earl Thomas for winning Walter Payton Man of the Year. And sometimes I think it's hard to single out one person when you look at the 32 players that are eligible, who, you know, each player representing their own individual team, because all those guys are doing a lot of good work if you ever look at it. And I know once you are awarded the Walter Payton Man of the Year award, you wear the emblem on your uniform throughout your career. I know Russell Wilson, I think, who else won it? Who else was awarded Man of the Year as well? I know Russell Wilson was one. Was Dak Prescott one of them? Dak is one. And honestly, for a lot of things that he went through those last few years, the leg injury, losing his mom, losing his brother, you know, he and a lot of the charity work he's been doing, and not being afraid to come out and talk about his personal demons as well. You know, you got to respect the man for that. Really do. So I like the fact that the NFL does this. I really do, because it brings attention to what a lot of these players are doing, and a lot of the charity work that they're doing, and why it's so important to them. Whether it's raising money for cancer or cancer research, whether it's helping kids, you know, in other areas. You know, I know like some players do charity work, you know, to make sure people have classes, little things like that, helping the kids just to have the simplest things to go to school, whatever. It's hard to just say, oh, these 32, you got to pick this one person. It really is hard. But I just said, shout out to any player that was nominated this past season. shout out to you guys as well for everything y'all doing too. So I don't want anyone to think that it's just Earl Thomas getting recognized because he won the award. The other 31 guys from the other 31 teams that are also doing things, shout out to them for what they're doing as well.
Sounds good. Coach, any comments on this?
In any of those guys on that picture, I would take off Vrabel and put in Seattle's coach as coach of the year, just because of the way he, sort of handled that whole thing. New quarterback, new everything. Vrabel, he's been around. I can see him getting it, coming to a team the first year that had a losing record, and turning them around, giving them the future. I can see that, but just the fact that Seattle's coach was new, and he got a quarterback, we still, like I said, nobody really thought that he would do what he did, and to make that defense one of the top defenses, and the way he led them, he sort of had the right demeanor. I think Seattle will be the dominant team again in the NFC if they can keep everybody. But salute to everybody, man. Everybody. Bobby Wagner, he's been in the league a while. Myles Garrett had an unbelievable season. Hopefully they can turn that whole thing around.
Well, I think Myles just punched his ticket to first ballot. I mean, back-to-back depoys, that's first ballot. Yeah.
And he broke them, and he got the single-season sack record too.
That's the ballot right there. That's the puncher right there.
Although it took him 17 games to get it, but I'm not getting that discussion again. Shout out to OJ. But I'm not going there again. I'm just putting it out there.
The same thing. He got it because he had played one more game. And
I'm just saying. Look, if he got it in 16 games, he had a chance to get it against us. He didn't do it. So I'm just saying. But if for running backs, if a running back gets 2,000 yards in 14 games or less, then I think that should be the rightful record holder. But again, shout out. I love Eric Dickerson, but again, 16 games versus 14 to get 2105. I'm sorry, but want to get into the last block of the night. I know we've been spinning on NFL, quite a bit tonight. So in fact, just going to skip a block and just get to this in here. Well, I really want to kind of go a little bit different. I know Anton, you kind of gave me the inspiration, certainly for this topic last week, and I did a little bit of background on this. So found this group, concussion and CTE, and they're talking about again the risks of CTE from different sports, so like football, rugby, and hockey, which are clearly very, very physical sports, and they have some interesting stats that I just wanted to kind of share here, and then we could just have a general conversation between again ice hockey and football. What sport is more dangerous? I mean, I think certainly football's gotten all the spotlight in terms of the CTE coverage. But you got a lot of hockey players who are suffering with stuff also. And when you were kind of given the laundry list of players who've had injuries, for Team USA going into the to the Olympic hockey, that got really thinking. So I just want to kind of touch on this a little bit, just kind of go through a couple slides here, and then we can have just an open discussion. So again, this group, they came out with these studies, statistics. So again, if you just look over just overall, in terms of just injuries, period. I mean, obviously football has a lot of injuries, but hockey's like right there. Certainly they have their share of injuries that come up. But here they talk about, again, CTE risk increases by 30% with each year of tackle football. This is based on a 2019 study of CTE. So, certainly we all know, football is an obvious one that has a lot of risk to it. But then even higher risk with hockey, 34%. With each year of ice hockey played, again, from a 2024 study, right? So definitely it's an issue that, again, you don't hear about necessarily from ice hockey, but it's very dangerous. And it makes sense, too, because these guys are hitting each other, traveling up to 30 miles an hour on these skates. So it makes sense that's there. Now, rugby, again, we don't really play in this country a whole lot. But again, you've seen a lot of these guys. These are huge guys, especially those Polynesian teams. And it's like us when we used to play football with no pads, and they hitting each other sometimes full blast. So again, CTE is even a risk even in the rugby world. So, but I just wanted to kind of just have a general discussion or just opinions from everybody in terms of your thoughts on the more dangerous sport. I mean, football. We all talk about the average, I think, length of a football career is like 2.5 years or 3 years or something like that. The numbers kind of change, but hockey certainly has its share. And, how many guys, if you're a hockey player, if you got all your teeth, you probably didn't play very hard. So the idea here is so I just want to kind of open this up, just get views from everybody. I know not everyone here is like the biggest hockey fan. Well, we certainly know that, certainly hockey players certainly do get injured. And I just want to kind of have a general, just pick everybody's brain on this. And since Anton, he's both a football and hockey aficionado, I wanted him to kind of chime in this as well. So I'm going to start with Anton, and we'll just kind of go up the board here. Your thoughts on just these stats, these numbers, and just from your point of view, being a fan of both games, why you believe one it may be more dangerous than another one. So just want to give you the floor.
Okay. I'm also a rugby guy too. I like watching rugby. I mean, it's a fun sport to watch.
Do they cover it? Where is it even? I don't even know. Is it on TV, like ESPN or something? Or
sometimes ESPN, sometimes Fox Sports. But usually the biggest tournament is always the Rugby World Cup. That's like the tournament of all tournaments in the rugby world. One of the reasons why I think football has that such a high number is because it's a collision sport, because they're hitting, they stop, and they do it again. So one person said the best way to describe football, it's like dealing with multiple car wrecks for 60 minutes compared to rugby or hockey, because hockey is it's a fast sport. You're getting hit and you're still playing. It's the same thing with rugby. You're getting hit, but yet you're still keeping the pace going, and so on and so forth. Hockey has been now starting to take this a little bit more serious. And there were times in certain circles they didn't want to talk about it, and they never really wanted to address it. That was one of the reasons why Gary Bettman got a lot of flack for a period of time, because he never really wanted to address any of the issues associated with CTE. Then all of a sudden, certain players, certain well-known hockey players, sadly passed away. Bob Probert, Gino Ochick, Chris Simon. These guys were enforcers. So these were guys were the ones that dropped the gloves and fought. So, of course, who knows if they got a concussion just having a fight. Then they send 5 minutes in the penalty box and they're playing the rest of the game. And that was one of the biggest issues, was because a lot of the guys were fighting. And then they found out, sadly, once they passed away, Ochick and Simon had certain levels of CTE. And one of the things that now is starting to change in hockey, especially in the NHL, design for helmets. So a lot of manufacturers would design better helmets that covers the head a little bit more. Also encouraging players to wear mouth guards, things like that. One other thing that was also leading to issues was the design of the equipment, because some hockey shoulder pads had the plastic caps on the shoulders. And when guys were hitting with the shoulder, and even if they weren't even intending to hit them with the shoulder, it was that cap that was making the contact that was causing it.
Wasn't at one time those face masks, wasn't that mandatory at one time, or that was just a player option?
That's honestly, visors at one time were an option. Now it's mandatory. Any player that came into the league after a certain point, players have to wear visors. Right now in the NHL, I think there's only 3 guys left playing without a visor. 2 of them I know are still in the league. One is Ryan O'Reilly, and the other one is Ryan Reeves. I forgot who the other player is. Those guys are the last of the few to play without a visor. And the funny thing, most people didn't realize, that was the same rule set up when it came to helmets, because the NHL didn't start allowing players to wear helmets until I think 1979. So any player that was already in the league playing without a helmet was allowed to play. And people were shocked that even going into as far as the 1990s, you were still able to find guys playing without a helmet. Randy Carlisle when he was with the Winnipeg Jets. Brad Marsh when he was with the Ottawa Senators. Doug Wilson when he was with first with the Chicago Blackhawks and then the San Jose Sharks. Rod Langway with the Washington Capitals. He was the last American-born player to do it. The last player in the NHL to play without a helmet was Craig McTavish. And he retired at the end of the 96-97 season. And the thing most people didn't realize, he found a loophole because he came into the league when they didn't have the helmet rule. He got into some legal stuff. He missed the season. He came back into the league. They said he had to wear a helmet. But when he showed his contract that he originally was drafted before the helmet rule, he was allowed to play without a helmet. And he continued from that point to the end of his career without a helmet. And people find it hard to believe that guys did play without a helmet. And even for a 2-year period, the NHL were going to allow players to voluntarily choose to play without helmets as long as they signed a waiver. And that was in 92, 93 and 93, 94. But now they're starting to take it more serious because they were realizing the situations and the problems that was going on when it came to hitting, when it came to the fight, and so on and so forth. And like I said before, the one player that really got it started was Eric Lindros. And he was a very physical player.
But he's huge too, right? Yeah, he's like one of the biggest guys, like almost 300 pounds on skates. I mean, the guy was
basically like 6'3", at least a good 235, 240. He had hands, he can skate, he can hit. But the problem was he had issues with concussions. He had issues with it for a period of time. And I think I remember one situation when he was with the Philadelphia Flyers. He missed the 99-2000 season because he was still recovering. He had post-concussion syndrome. And then he came back to play in the Eastern Conference Finals against the New Jersey Devils. Game 7, he's playing. One hit from Scott Stevens. One of the cleanest hitters in the league. Laying him out. That was the last time he played for the Flyers, and that was the last time he played for at least a few years because of it. And every time he was always fighting with Flyers management and their health teams because he felt like they wanted to try to get him back on a little bit too sooner, and he really wanted to take his time to come back because of the concussions and post-concussion syndrome. Another talented player whose career sadly was cut short also because of concussions, Pat LaFontaine.
Mm-hmm.
And he wasn't a big guy. That's the thing. He wasn't a big guy. He was a smaller guy, like 5'8", 5'9", maybe like 185, 195, maybe 200. But the guy can play. He can skate. He was fast. And unfortunately, there were some hits that he took, and he got concussions, and unfortunately, it shorted his career. The league didn't really take it serious for a period of time. Now they are. Now helmets are a lot better than they were before. A lot of the helmets that players were holding on to that they shouldn't have been playing with would not be legal now.
Right.
And also now you're seeing more and more players wearing mouth guards. That's helping with it as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's those little things that are helping. Like I said, with the equipment. Now the newer shoulder pads you see, they don't have those plastic caps anymore. A lot of the elbow guards that made played as well because they had plastic caps too. They don't have those anymore. So changing the equipment, allowing players to wear other equipment like mouth guards and everything else, and the new designs to helmets and new places of where you can't hit, is help bring it down more. But you still got to pay attention to it because it's always going to be an occasional hit. Not all that serious that's going to cause it. Maybe a fight will cause it. Maybe getting hit by the puck may cause it. But I'm just
everything you mentioned didn't have nothing to do with the game. Them fighting is not a part of the game, right? Most players got concussions through fighting. They barely get
fighting. It was.
But what I'm not saying it wasn't just. I would say about 85% get it through fighting. And again, I think that they should have employed mouthpieces. But even with the helmet, players are not falling every game. They get body checked, and the helmet, the plastic absorbs the impact. Even football shoulder pads have plastic. It's a similar concept. It's just designed a little different. They have to have that to absorb. You can't just have all cushions because then they'll feel the impact. With that plastic, it's like a little barrier, just like being in a car. Then you have the cushions of the seat. So it just plays the same design. But even with the players, right, a lot of, like you said, they like to fight. You get into a fight 5 years in it, most of them, listen, the referees don't even jump in a fight until they go to the ground. They'll let them fight it out. So in that capacity, I can see having a more impact on the CTE. But as far as compared to football, like you mentioned it, two small cars colliding every 35 seconds. And a lot of times the thing that make football so crazy, hockey is more one-on-one contact, when you see them going down, maybe some football, I'm trying to catch a ball. Dante's coming from the front, you coming from the side, Shawnee coming from the back. I can flip on my neck and head. I can get hit in multiple positions, But again, I think both of them, I like the design of the mandatory mouthpieces and I shut up. The thing that makes hockey so crazy, you got on your helmet throughout the whole time you're in the game. As soon as you get into a fight, the first thing they do, they throw their helmets off. It makes no sense. So
because the visors get in the way, that's why.
So you're gonna get a concussion because they fight. Them white boys knocking out teeth if they can.
Well, one of the things like in junior hockey, they really have like addressed the fighting issue. Like in the CHL, the Canadian Hockey League, there's 3 separate leagues up there in Canada and some parts of the US. Fighting's not allowed. Period. No fighting at all. You get into a fight, you get a 10-minute major, the game is conduct, you're out. Playing some, and you're possibly suspended. The U.S. Hockey League is looking into doing the same thing. I think they have done that. And you can't fight in college hockey at the NCAA because they're wearing full facial protection. They're either wearing a wire cage, a full clear visor, or a hybrid of both, where it's the visor up top and the wire cage at the bottom. So you can't even get into a fight in college hockey as well because of that. So, and ironically, they've been talking about whether to get rid of the full cage and have them wear visors like junior hockey. There's talks about doing that. I don't think that's going to be a good idea because, sadly, one of my cousins played college hockey at the D1 level. The problem with a lot of college guys is poor stick discipline. Now you want them to play with a full visor and no lower facial protection? I don't think that's going to work. It's something they're looking into, but I don't think that's going to work.
All right, Dante, why don't you get in here? I know you guys, Dallas. What's the team? Stars. What's the Dallas Stars? So you guys, I know you guys watch or occasional plays. What are your thoughts on just football versus hockey in terms of the CTE risk and just injuries in general? Because we haven't even talked about hockey guys with the injuries to the face and the eye fractures and all that kind of stuff, getting hit with a puck at 50 miles an hour, however fast it comes in, just things like that as well.
Maybe more.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on just safety, or what do you think is the more dangerous game?
I would probably say, because I'm more familiar with it, football, just as far as being more dangerous, because the head injury wise, it's just like, guys, a lot of guys, especially, it was still that way when I played high school football, but the passing game did become a thing, but it was still teams that were going to line up and run the football, the majority of the game, and they just how they were. They, just constant collisions, constant motion, and it was still the era where I never forget. My high school coach, the offensive coordinator, was just like, okay, you threw him the ball there, you're going to get him killed. Because at the time, like, hey, if I can't get there, because at that time, I will say there were guys that, hey, you're here to eliminate the guy from him. You can't cover, but you can come and smash it. And so the more guys you have that, now you have guys where it's like, hey, it may not be so much the collision there, but the collisions are still happening because the guys are faster. The guys are faster, stronger, bigger. So those collisions are still happening, even though, you have the helmets, you're trying, you got the guardian caps. Football is that way. I'm glad to hear what you said. I can't speak too much on hockey, but I will say I'm glad to hear that they're making progressions to make it safer. I know football is trying, but even I do think it's going to come at some point. At some point, you're going to have kids play flag and 7-on-7, and then by the time they get to 8th, 7th in middle school, like maybe 8th grade, you're playing tackle, and then you're playing it in high school. I've heard that proposed a lot. Only thing is, only thing is I've heard that for a decade, hasn't happened yet. So it'll happen at some point.
Gotcha, Shawnee.
Yeah, I just think I forgot the years that your numbers when you was posting them up. Football may have been even higher than what you shown if it wasn't for the lawsuit. And then they had to really change some stuff up. And they continue, which I give them props. They continue to find ways to kind of make the game safer. Like Coach mentioned, it's a car wreck to every game, damn near every play. The wider the gap, like special teams, and maybe be even bigger car wreck. But now since they changed the rules, they kind of minimize that. With hockey and football, with them being in pads, that just gives them more of a sense of just, I don't want to say invincibility, but now I can really come after you because I have some covering on me. Rugby players is just their bodies, so they hitting each other, but they tend to, they just trying to make sure they hit you hard with their bodies per se, as you see with football, like players like Ryan Clark back to, I used to call him a kamikaze. He'll knock himself out if it means knocking you down as well. So football is just, but with football also, hockey, baseball, basketball, those are more skilled sports. Football, it gives a person a variety of sizes. If you're more slim, you can be a DB or a receiver. If you're a bigger dude, you can play on the line. If you just can handle the pressure and whatnot, and maybe a quick decision maker, you can be a quarterback and so on. If you're just good kicking the ball, you can be a kicker or a punter. So there's a spot for a whole lot more people. So because of that, football players, they all know the risk they about to come into the game with. But because there's more opportunities to potentially, if you have NFL pro level dreams to potentially get you there, they ain't gonna say, hey man, we know what we signed up for. As long as we can get to the NFL and have a piece of that pie, we'll do it. You see football players, they basically sacrifice their life for a chance to get to the league, because it's like, I don't have to be the smallest or the fastest dude. If I'm a bigger dude, I can work my craft on getting to become an offensive lineman. Yeah, I would say, man, if you good long snapping the football, that's a way to get to the pro levels. So with football, they understand that risk, but because it's more avenues to potentially become a millionaire, they just gonna accept it. And they just gonna accept the risk. And basketball, hockey, baseball, they may accept the risk like in hockey, but you still have to be skilled. If you don't have the skill set, they gonna say get off the ice. Football, you're not good at this, because we see it with receivers. Oh, you're not so good at catching the ball. Let's see how you're gonna be as a DB, and so on. So football players understand that risk, but I don't want to say they don't care, because sometimes y'all know that, I don't know what they call it, because some players wear it. Like I know
caps.
Yes,
but that halo
cap.
thing, Petrie or the Texans, they safety, he wears it, and I'll be like, why don't y'all all wear that? But I think some of them, they be worried about how they look. I'll be like, okay, you're gonna be looking with the braids turning nuts. You're gonna wish you have it on then, but they give you the technology, but it's still, I guess, we talked about a couple of weeks ago why they're not wearing knee pads. They're playing. Yeah, I don't know why I just picked that up, but I'm looking at these playoff games, and I'm like, these guys, this is spring training, because they're literally running in shorts, no knee pads, no thigh pads. It's just fully. And I thought there was like a uniform code or whatever. Where I know some teams, they want you to have full length socks all the way up and whatnot, but I guess that's all going by the wayside. But
they know the dangers, but they don't care right now.
Yeah. But I wanted to come back and address
the NFL.
Yeah. I want to address a couple things as far as the points that have been made. And again, thank you guys for sharing. I guess the one thing I'm thinking with concussions, because everyone's focusing on the headgear or whatever. But if you've had a concussion, you don't need to take a headshot to get a concussion. The whiplash that you may get from taking a shot. That you can still get concussed or whatever. Plus, you're also playing on this hard pavement. Now, look, we've all probably played sandlot football, and some guys were crazy enough to play tackle football in the parking lot. We didn't do that often, all right, but we did. But hockey players, you're playing on a landing and falling. I don't care how much pad and protection you have. You're learning on a hard pavement every play. Football, you got the artificial turf, or you got the grass or something. So I'm thinking that has to have an impact in terms of, if not concussions, then also the risk of injury. Just imagine just falling down on a hard floor several times a day, every day, over a course of a season. the bumps and bruises that you're going to get from that all the time. Plus, you're on these skates, even though your ankle is relatively protected. But again, you're not even on a firm footing most of the time. So to me, I get the idea that football, we see it because again, the objective of football is to hit on almost every play pretty much. But it just seems like with hockey, there's just a lot of factors that I'm seeing in hockey now. Most, like I said, the speed of the game. I mean, if you talk about the crash courses, you've seen those tests. Like they'll have a crash dummy go into a wall at 5 miles an hour. Then they'll do it like at 10 miles an hour. It goes up like amplified, and for every mile over that you go, the impact of the crash is magnified multiple times. So imagine getting hit. Yeah, I can get hit by a linebacker. I get hit by Ray Lewis, coming at me full speed. I still remember that hit to Tiki Barber in the Super Bowl. That was a major wipeout. But I'm just saying. But imagine you getting 25 miles an hour on these skates, and the guy is in the wall, and you just have this guy come in full impact, just ram you into the wall. And I don't know, Anton, do they still have goons? Because you used to have guys in the game. Who's the guy who used to play for Ty Domi? Yeah. I think he used to play for the Rangers. He was a goon. Yeah. He had no ability. He was just there just to get in there and scrap and beat people up or whatnot. But I mean, I don't think did he ever score a goal in his life with it. I mean, that's not what he.
None of that he did, but
I'm just saying, but that's not his role. But I'm just saying, you had certain guys who were in there just to rough you up, just to beat you up. Right. In the spare time, give your starters a break or whatever. Your job is just to go in there and be a goon. Well, and so I just think that hockey definitely has some risks that if I'm a parent, and I think because they're not going to come out with flag hockey anytime soon. So I'm just thinking that the risk of playing hockey, in addition to just the cost and expense of it and all those sort of things, that it certainly has some risks that I don't think we necessarily have talked about a lot. But I think just looking at it, it has historically been a dangerous game. And I've seen players where they take off and they have scars and stitches all over their bodies and stuff because of stuff that you don't see necessarily that they're taking. So, I mean, I think I'm just a better football fan than a hockey fan, but I can certainly appreciate the brutality of the game and the cost of playing a game. And I don't know how these guys wind up down the line, after the game with arthritis and all those kind of things. But I would have to think landing on that hard surface every night has got to add up over time. So that's just my general sort of general thoughts on the matter. If anyone has a follow up to that, you can go ahead.
The only thing I would say with that sort of, I guess the thing that sort of puts hockey less dangerous in a sense, because hockey, it's less neck and head and it's more body. Hockey, you can get punched. I don't see a lot of players fall in hockey, regardless of how fast they skate, that fall head first, that fall, they may fall body, shoulder. I can see having injuries like broken, fingers. I don't see
hip.
A lot of,
I can see your hips, your shoulder. Yeah.
I'd rather have the hip problem than a CTE problem any day. So if this in reference to the CTE, football, we all play. If you play football and you ran the ball and you were a good tackle or something, you done used your helmet. And you might have had a few concussions back in the day. I remember having a concussion and nobody came to see if I was okay. And I didn't know what it was then, but as I got older, I realized what it was. Everything that was being said to me sounded like I was underwater. It's what it sounded like. I remember seeing my mother and it was like, whoop, 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 whoop. And I had to sit there for about, I think I played like the next 2 quarters, but when it comes to that CTE, that's why to me, form is correct. Teaching your young one the proper form about, especially playing football, even hockey. Because I don't know if any of you all ice skated. Ice skating is not that bad. It's not that bad. I don't know. You might not have ice skating ability, but I've ice skated.
Definitely more roller skate, and the 4 wheels, not the inline. The four skates on the disco floor. Yeah. So
okay, but yeah, I mean, even with the CT, man, any contact sport to be dangerous to me. That's why technique is important. But nothing's gonna trump football when it comes to head injuries.
Gotcha. Thanks for having the discussion, guys.
We're gonna.
I'm sorry. Someone else had a comment.
Yeah, I was about to finish up about the enforcers. They really don't have enforcers anymore. Like
they took them out. Oh, okay.
They're still around, but they're not like how it used to be 10, 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, you got some guys that are enforcers, but now they got to know how to have other skills.
Yeah.
Know how to pass.
I know Ty Domi was like a notorious in our area, right? He was like, you either hated that guy if he played, I guess the Devils played the Rangers or whatever. You hated him. There was no, because again, he was only there, and he would make the news. The thing, he would make the news. The Warner Wolf or whoever the local broadcaster was, he would make the news every night because he either got kicked out of a game or whatnot, and people cheering him or whatever because he's doing. And it's like, So again, I'm glad if they have certainly weeded that kind of player out of the game. I'm sort of glad about that. But you definitely had those guys. And in fact, goons. The whole idea of a goon came from hockey. I think you didn't have goons. Goons in basketball was kind of rare. Some goons in football was rare, but I think where it really got solidified was in hockey when you had those kind of.
Was the one that protected the superstar. That's why.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
what their job was, and I think another reason why the NHL had to start taking head injury serious as well. Sidney Crosby, early in his career, he had a good number of concussions, and people call him fragile. And he was the new face of the NHL. Him, Alex Ovechkin, so on and so forth. But of course, Crosby was that new face because after Gretzky retired, it was like, okay, who's going to replace Gretzky? And the one person that came to mind was Sidney Crosby. And early in his career, he had some concussion issues. Once they start realizing that, and the NHL start taking it more serious. That's the reason why they had to take it more serious.
So similar like the Brady thing when he got hurt, and they cut out the. Because I will say this,
rule, all the stuff that came later.
Yep. I would say Crosby is a guy that has crossover appeal because it was like, as a sports fan, I knew when he was coming up, it was like, hey, this is one of the ones. And then the guy that plays for the McDavid, the guy that plays for the Oilers. I remember hearing it, and he's killed the star. My goodness. Yeah,
and that's what it was because those guys came in, and people forget the NHL had that strike in 2004, 2005. So a lot of guys that got drafted in 2004 didn't start playing until a year later. So you had this large influx of guys coming in within that 2 to 3 year period. Sidney Crosby, Connor McDavid, Jonathan Toews, Patrick Kane, Alex Ovechkin, Brad Marchand, so on and so forth. So when they start realizing, you start seeing all these skilled players coming in, it's like, all right, we got to start making some serious changes. Another change that was also done in hockey was they got rid of the seamless boards. And if you ever pay attention to hockey, when you look at the glass, you see these little silver rods that go right in between the glass.
Yeah.
Those are seams. And what happened is, at the time when you were supposed to hit the wall, it gave. It was supposed to flex to help absorb the hits and everything else too. The problem was they wanted to go to some buildings went to seamless glass, so they didn't have those silver rods in between the glass, and the glass didn't give when players were hitting it. They would complain like they were literally hitting a brick wall. So when players were getting hurt because of that, then the league mandated no more seamless glass. And now if you go in any of the buildings, you're going to see those little silver rods in between the glass. And anytime you see guys get hit, you're going to see it flex. That means it's absorbing the hits when two guys are making contact with the wall.
Gotcha. All right, gentlemen, we're going to set up for final thoughts. I know we will over time tonight, but again, putting a bow certainly on the football season. So again, we're going to be in the dark ages for the time being, but maybe next week we can talk a little NBA.
Basketball mode.
Yeah, and obviously Olympic hockey is going on as well, so maybe we'll have some updates. We can even talk about that. My final thought is just going to be shout out to Lindsey Vonn. Tried to make a comeback, 41 years of age. Sometimes, again, the body at 41, you may feel great, but again, when you're 40, things just don't work or don't rebound, or you're not as elastic as you once was. But again, she made her way back to the Olympics, and unfortunately, early on, she had a fractured her leg and had to have surgery and everything. So again, her Olympic days are done, and this Olympics is done. So again, but just wishing her the best on the comeback. And shout out to the USA women hockey. I know the men's hockey I think starts tomorrow. Men's first game, but the women 4-0 so far. They seem very dominant in their pool, and they're certainly one of the favorites. Certainly to win gold. I hope they do. I'm still smart enough. I think it was the last game Olympics or the one before that where I think they lost to Canada. I think both the U.S. men and women lost to Canada in the gold medal games, and it was like a 1-goal game or something like that. It was like a late thing that they lost the games on. So I'm still smarting over that. Yeah,
it was 2010 in Vancouver.
2010. Yeah, I'm still smarting over that one. Yes,
I'm still pissed off about it too. That's why I say Sidney Crosby broke my heart, because when he scored that goal past Ryan Miller, he became a national icon in all of Canada. And the only place he's safe in the United States is in Pittsburgh. I was so pissed off when they lost that game. I kicked the trash can split in half.
Yeah.
That's how angry I was, and I'm still angry about it to this day.
Absolutely. All right, go ahead, Dante. You want to go next?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and jump in. So basically, my recap. I know I gave my top 10 like a couple of shows ago, but Shawnee wasn't here. And just going to give my top 5 Texas high school quarterbacks of all time. And one of them is certainly in the top 5, just won MVP, Matthew Stafford. He came we was in high school at the same time. I think he graduated after me. Was a top recruit. My number 1, definitively, everybody else can go in a different order. But because Kyler Murray, 3 championships, undefeated record, that's why the whole thing of him never losing in AT&T Stadium, because that's where the Texas high school championship games are. He never lost that game. 3 years, 3 championships. Two-time. I think he was a 2-time Max Reps Player of the Year. Just phenomenal career. Vince Young is in my top 5. Absolutely amazing. I remember seeing that grainy tape, and I was like, that guy's going to Texas, and just what he became. Where it gets tougher spots. I mean, Drew Brees deserves a spot up there. But one I'm putting in there is from a guy that came in my era and took up all the headlines. I didn't realize South Lake was so close to Fort Worth. Took up all the headlines. Chase Daniel. I think he was 34-1 in high school. Like 2-year starter, 9,000 yards passing. Was amazing. Went D1 went to Missouri. And I said Chase. I said Vince. I said Kyler. Stafford. So the 5 spot is kind of tough. Oh man. I'm gonna give it to Drew Brees, because I know he won a title. He won for a great traditional program. He won their first state title actually. So I'm gonna give it to Brees to round out the top 5. Just missing the list. Too many greats to name, but Patrick Mahomes is one of them. That just lets you know how deep he was. Yeah.
Well, he was like, I don't know if he's that tough, 'cause even coming out, like I don't think anybody expected him to be Patrick Mahomes. I remember watching the show when they were all getting drafted. I think they did some sort of show, but he wasn't like that. You know what I mean?
He wasn't thought of like that. But 2 guys, he's one of them. You put on the list of Drew Brees had to go to Purdue, because of the size thing. And at that time in the 90s, they was like, a quarterback need to be 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", laser rocket arm. And so, and I say also with Mahomes, playing the baseball, they may have been thinking that, but then he was marked, and that's why he taught me don't mark it by a school in the system. He went to Tech, and when he went to Tech, I was like, that's that, and that's why I don't respect Cliff Kingsbury as a coach. You had Patrick Mahomes in the Big 12. Obviously, you have a defense, but you couldn't have a winning record. Nah, I'm good. I'm good. He literally failed up to the pros. He's an offensive coordinator only. But like Mahomes didn't have the build up. But I say everyone else on the list was thought of as, hey, this is the next great thing. This is that, and just phenomenal. Because what at our name, number 1 pick Kyler, number 1 pick Stafford, top 3 pick this year.
But hey, Dante, if you remember, who did Patrick Mahomes replace when he arrived at Texas Tech?
Baker Mayfield.
There you go.
Baker Mayfield. Man, and that's crazy to think Baker Mayfield got replaced, and man, crazy.
There you go, Shawnee.
Well, mine, I was looking, and when you trying to look up the players, it's hard because not everybody's stats was captured, especially they win, loss, and it was a lot of different variables. So I just try to make it easier on myself and just pick players that I know. You got the Sammy Balls, you got the
No one's saying going back to the leather helmet keys.
Yeah, I don't know them dudes. Them dudes was playing before I was even conceived. So I just go and just my top out, and I was trying to put them, I guess, in my order per se. So I would have like Patrick Mahomes as my number 5, and that go back and forth with he can go back and forth with Matt Stafford. And it's a give and take with a lot of these dudes, really, because a lot of them were good high school quarterbacks like their senior year.
Mm-hmm.
And you got Andrew Luck. He was at Stratford High School in the Houston area. He passed for over 7,100 yards. He was a 2-time All-American. I had him on number 4. Breeze, I had him number 3. Westlake, a nice high school in the Austin area. His career record was 28-0-1. He had 1 title. Vince Young. Now, Vince Young had no titles. So you had to experience, I guess, Vince Young.
Mm.
At one time, his senior year, he was dominant. So that's why you have to, he was, I think that year, he had 59 touchdowns, I believe. He was just a dominant player. He didn't have a title, so you go look. And I was trying to look. I was like, what was his win-loss record? But I couldn't find it. And then, like Dante mentioned, by far, to me, number 1 is Kyler Murray. He never lost a start. Finished his start at 42-0. Passed over 10,000 yards. Won 3 straight state titles. And a 2-time national player. That's the thing about Kyler Murray, because you remember when he got drafted, he had a chance to go number 1 in baseball. But he chose football because, football is more glory at the quarterback position.
He got taken 10th. He got taken 10th in baseball, and at the time, it was one of those. Oakland A's.
How was he as a baseball player, like in high school? Like was he all state baseball? What position play in? What, shortstop?
I think he might have been short. I have to look it up because I know that I heard from a former pro player that it was a development arc that he was going to need. It was going to take some time because I remember debating with this guy that he was like he should have played baseball. He would have made more money. I was like, no, because baseball coming out the gate, he wasn't going to get the Gatorade deal as the number 1 overall pick with $25 million deal. That was going to take up what he would have made there. And then at the extension, I was just like, hey, in most cases, what was the old receiver? I can't remember his name that played at Notre Dame. He was really good. Jeff Samardzija. And he ended up being a pitcher. Yep. That equals out in today's time. But in today's time,
he was an outfielder.
Even in that time, okay. You still go ahead and play football if it's the quarterback position. I remember even Deion was like, "Oh, you need to play." No, you play what you love. You play what you got the shot at. And now
shout out to John Elway. He had a chance too to come out. I think baseball.
He was drafted by the Yankees.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I just think with Kyler Murray, because obviously on the national stage, people just think automatically NFL with him. His NFL career has basically been just above average, maybe average.
Mm-hmm.
But people got to understand just how dominant of a high school quarterback he was. And the thing about with Allen is a suburb up here. I think they got between 70 and 90,000 people. So they're big enough to have multiple high schools, but they refuse to do it. They only have 1 high school for this huge little.
How many students go to this high school?
7,000.
Over 7,000.
That's crazy. You got colleges that don't have that many students.
And their stadium,
7,000.
I think their stadium cost over $60 million to build.
Mm-hmm.
That was literally makes people thought the house that Kyler Murray built. I think they built that after or during Kyler Murray's or right after he left. So one of the two.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he was a dominant football player. So I know we've been trying to get this high school list done for weeks and months, but we finally got it out the way.
Real quick before I let Anton cook and then Coach, if you're still there to close us out, what do you think he lands up this year?
What's that?
Kyler, where do you think he lands? Do you think he stays in with the Cardinals, or does he go to another team? Who picks him up?
I don't know, because the biggest thing with Kyler, I don't really know. I mean, everybody's always talking about his size. I think he has the physical traits. It's just in between the ears. How dedicated are you with this craft? And because of that, I mean, I don't know. I gotta really look at the landscape, because a lot of teams right now, if they were bad enough, they're gonna draft a quarterback, or they already have a young quarterback.
His class isn't very good.
And the class is bad. That's what's gonna help Kyler. Like, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And my thing is, I think some teams might be thinking, if we can do a soft tank and you get a Kyler or somebody, because there's no guarantee he's going to win you a lot of games. You take on that salary, you bring him on, and then if it's not working, you sit him by the end of the year, lose out. It could be something. I personally would say, I don't care what nobody says. I don't care what nobody says. Go and look at just what happened with Sam Darnold. And what's that mean? Lord, I see what you done for others. Do it. I want it for me. Hey, man, go ahead and get you Mac Jones. Go ahead and sign Mac Jones. Why not? Sign a Mac Jones. Give him a I love you, I like you, but I don't love you type of deal. And he'll take it. Try to, give him 3-year deal, because I think that even Darnold didn't get big money. Now his next payday is going to be stupid. It's going to be insane, because I got a Super Bowl ring. He's coming in to the negotiating table. And if he played like Coach Spurs said, it's going to be a problem with him, but they got the cap room. I know somebody mentioned in the chat, they got $80 million in cap space and won the bowl, so they can keep who they want, give extensions, because Devin Witherspoon's up for an extension. He's a star. He's a star player. So I don't know. I can't, man. I can't wait to get into in March. We're gonna have March Madness and the NFL free agency. Great times, guys. Plenty of content.
There you go. Anton, you still there? I stepped away for a minute. Coach, are you still there, sir? All right, these guys might have to step off a little bit. Again, okay, Anton, all right, so you want to give a quick final thought before we get on out of here?
Sorry about that. I had to make a pit stop. All right, my final thought, this was a great discussion and everything else. I'm glad you brought up the final score of the U.S. women against Canada. They've been a very dominant team throughout these Olympics. One player you should definitely pay attention to is defenseman Lila Edwards. She's the first Black woman to play for the United States in women's ice hockey. She's a two-time national champion at the University of Wisconsin. Ironically, she's actually a forward, but because they had too many forwards, she's playing out of position, and that's how she was able to get a spot. And she's getting things done for them. So they just about done with the group stage, and then after that, they're going to be starting the middle. They're going to be starting the middle rounds eventually within another couple of days and such. And as for the men, they're starting up as well. They're starting up tomorrow. They got to play Latvia first, and then they got to play, I believe, Germany next, and then Denmark. And this team, the men's team, they're going to try to get a lot of things done. They're really going to try to get this done. This is a very talented squad that they brought together. This is practically the same team that they had at Four Nations from last year, with the exception of a few players. Other than that, this is a team that's really going to go out there and try to get things done. And I don't know if you guys heard me say this, but this is a team that's motivated. They're going to be playing with heavy heart because they know one person that should have been on this roster was Johnny Gaudreau.
Yeah, man, you talked about that. Yep.
And that's going to be their motivation. So don't be surprised if they show a glimpse of their locker room getting ready for a game. You're going to see a locker stall with a sweater there with the number 13 with the last name Gaudreau on it. And that was their motivating factor when they played at Four Nations. That was their motivation when they played at World Championships last year as well. I remember when they won World Championships last year, Zach Werenski went into the locker room, got Gaudreau's jersey, brought it back out to the ice, and they wanted to make sure that his jersey was present when not only they got the trophy, but when they had their team picture. That's how much he's meant to a lot of those guys. Some of those are guys he played with in Columbus. Some of these guys he played with in Calgary. Some of these guys he played with through the National Team Development Program. And a few of those guys he played with at Boston, and there are a few of those guys he probably played with at Boston College. So they're going out there to play for him. Plain and simple. He did it at Four Nations. It came up short. He did it at World Championships and did it for him. And I think that's what they're going to do here in Italy. They're going to go out there and try to win it for him because they know how much he has meant to those guys in so many ways. Mm-hmm. Several players have even said they never would have played in World Championships, but they chose to play in it because he was playing. So they're realizing, you know what? We're going to go in for him. And don't be surprised you see that sense of focus on their face. And if they do make it all the way, if they do win gold, don't be surprised if you see not a dry eye in that group. And don't be surprised if you see someone holding out number 13 sweater saying, this is for you, Johnny. So that's all I got to say. And those are some words we're thinking about.
I heard that. Coach, are you still back there, sir? Going once, going twice. I think Coach had to step off the stage for a minute, but again, always appreciate his insight. I like how we close the show. I'll step in for the coach, and I would just say, yeah, certainly we got the end of the season here, but you make sure that you certainly take care of yourselves, be fit, guys, get your colonoscopies, get all the stuff that you need to be healthy. We need our brothers to stick around, certainly in these times. Enjoy the sports, enjoy the Olympics. And again, next week when we come back to the show again, we'll have a roll. It'll be a free fall. So anything you guys want to talk about, I'll talk to these guys in the background. You guys, whatever you guys want to talk about, we can kind of dish. Certainly in interim. Also, the All-Star game is this week. NBA All-Star is this week, and I totally forgot about it. So that's gonna be coming up. So I'll be watching that. Shout out. I guess McClung is gonna win the dunk contest again. No news there.
No, I think he said he's not gonna do it.
He's not doing it anymore. Okay, so they'll give it to the next cornbread player is going to come up and try to win the dunk contest or what have you. So they'll find the next one. But in any event, I am looking forward to this new format. The 4-team, the 2 U.S. teams versus the one world team. I will be tuning in to see that as far as and probably 3-point contests because that's pretty pure and that's not very taxing. You still got some of the elite players who will still participate in it. So I'll definitely watch that. But the dunk contest, it's not like the 80s, Coach. Dominique versus Jordan, we'll never see that again. Although I did Levine versus who was the other guy?
My gosh.
Yeah,
Levine
those were
Aaron
probably
Gordon.
Gordon and Levine. Those are probably the best dunk contests of all time in terms of skill set. Jordan versus Dominique is probably the best in terms of rivalry and matchup head to head that you look forward to. And to me, the greatest performance of all time, I got to give it to my guy Spud Webb. 5'7", 1986 slam dunk contest champion. Got to get shout out to my guy Spud. I'll give it to him.
Guys can dunk. That's what he did. He showed short guys can dunk.
Absolutely. So that one is just amazing. It's like you're seeing this. You can't imagine your eyes. It's like something.
You got to give a shout out to Nate Washington to pay tribute to Spud Webb.
Yes, but even still, he's got 3 inches on Spud. That's 4 inches on Spud. That's the crazy thing about it. Nate Washington, he's like 5'10". Spud's like 5'6". So again, yeah. But Coach, that you're back, you want to certainly close us out, sir? I try to do your job, but I can never be you, sir. So you close out the show tonight, sir.
Yeah, man. Unfortunately, it's only one me, so salute to that. No, but listen, man, great show. You know what I'm saying? We are winding down. The football season, of course, is officially over, man. It's now the winners. I think it took a turn for the better. So now let us focus on our health a little bit more. I see everybody. Salute to y'all, man. Got y'all families, man. Young children, man. Let's let them see that we can be healthy too. Because they need y'all to get old and ugly like me. You know what I'm saying? But salute to y'all, man. It's a great show, man. Good topics, man. Let's go into the basketball section of the season. And let's see what Mr. Bennett, know about that game, man. So salute to y'all, man.
All righty. Well, again, certainly for myself, for Dante, for the coach, for Shawnee, and for Anton. So a new addition to the show. Thank you certainly for the hockey insights, and looking forward to again. He's about to spin off and start to do his own thing. Certainly looking forward to when those shows drop. Keep us informed once you get your show and channel started. Looking forward to great content from you. But guys, and again, enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy the All-Star game. Enjoy the Olympics, all the other sports that are going on. Until next time, take care. God bless, and we will see you next week. Good night.